politicians act in bad faith all the time, right?
No, they don't. Nope, not like this. You're wrong.
They do.
No. Also, hold on. Just by definition, definitionally, if Trump would have succeeded and would have stayed in office, and then now he's about to leave office, would you be saying then that like it wasn't a threat to democracy and democracy didn't end?
I haven't been listening. I've been trying to figure out text, and I have to sit and catch up on what's going on. But I'm sure all the liberals are incorrect.
Thank you guys for coming on today, taking some time to be on the show today. We're going to go around and have everybody introduce themselves. I want to thank Sean, Destiny, Hutch, and Cam Higby for coming on. Let's start with the guy who just, arrived in the last second to save us. Cam Higby, want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name's Cam Higby. I'm an investigative journalist and undercover journalist for a company called Today's America, and I also do political commentary and debates.
Thank you very much for coming last second. I do appreciate it, and I hope the viewers at home consider the fact that this is a last second appearance for Mr. Cam Higby. We're going to throw it over now to Hutch.
Welcome, everybody. It's nice to meet you, Sean. Thanks for subbing in so quickly, Cam. Look forward to having the conversation with you, and congrats on bringing Hippy Dippy back, Dylan.
Thank you very much. Always happy to come to the depths of Twitch poll and see where I can make my coin. I'm going to now throw it over to Destiny.
What's up? I'm also an investigative political guy. I investigate Wikipedia, and thanks for having me.
Happy to have Wikipedia's top researcher here today. We're now going to throw it over to Sean Fitzgerald, also known as ActualJusticeWarrior.
What's up? I'm a YouTuber. I focus mostly on crime stuff, and the reason Lauren couldn't make it is due to the fact that we can't work together. It's my fault. I take all the blame for it.
Damn.
You can't work together?
Yeah, irreconcilable differences.
Wow, I had no clue. Well, there you go. Breaking news from Sean Fitzgerald. Irreconcilable differences. Whatever those were. Now we're going to go into the topic for today. The topic is democracy on the ballot in 2024? It's a big topic. From the left, you hear a lot that Donald Trump is anti-democracy, he's authoritarian, that he tried to overturn the results of the election. And so many Democrats are fearful that if he wins, that he's going to end democracy as you know it. He's going to do damage to our institutions. On the right, you hear a lot about the political persecution of Donald Trump through the justice system picking on him and going after him legally in order to try to undermine his presidential ambitions. Or is it all just nonsense and everybody needs to stop being so hyperbolic? Is democracy on the ballot in 2024? We're going to start today with, actually, let's go with ActualJusticeWarrior.
All right, great. Thank you. So the question of is democracy is on the ballot is honestly a bit ridiculous in my opinion. It is not on the ballot for this election, and if my opponents are going to argue the contrary, they're going to have to explain exactly why the mechanisms of our government are going to be overthrown if presumably Trump gets elected. The fact of the matter is our government is the longest consistent government currently going in world history at this moment in time. We have been through a bunch of different controversial elections. We have been through a Trump presidency already. So these guys are going to have to explain what would be different about Trump winning in 2024 that was different from him winning in 2016.
Okay, I'm going to now throw it over to Hutch.
I actually wrote out kind of a lengthy opener. Is that okay, or do you want it more concise?
To 2 minutes, under 2 minutes is usually where we go. 2:30 I'll allow, but don't go excessive.
Okay, let me just try to get through as much as possible.
Okay.
So I do in fact think that democracy is on the ballot in 2024, even if the threats it faces aren't necessarily immediate. I would like to focus on what lies do to a democracy. It's impossible to have a healthy, functional democracy if the electorate is aggressively misinformed. When you have a misinformed electorate that are angry enough about the lies they've been told, events like January 6th become more and more likely. One person in particular has misinformed his voters more than any president that has ever come before him. Everybody on this panel knows that every politician lies to one degree or another. Omission, exaggeration, embellishment, and hyperbole are all standard practices for any politician, but Trump is not your average politician, and the brazenness of his lies put him in an entirely separate universe. He lies about the weirdest, most unnecessary, easily disprovable things, such as he started his presidency with a lie about his crowd sizes. He claimed that the clouds parted and it stopped raining as he started speaking at his inauguration. He used a Sharpie pen to elongate the projected path of a hurricane, claims that windmill noise causes cancer. He lied about being Michigan's Man of the Year. These are just the silly lies, but I think they give you a sense of who he is. He's clearly demonstrated that he has no regard whatsoever for the truth. His instinct every time he opens his mouth is self-aggrandizement. And to that end, he is willing to do and say whatever pops into his head at any given moment for any given topic. The truth simply does not matter to him at all. The spirit of democracy is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And if the people are angry, confused, and misinformed, you are throwing about 10,000 wrenches into a system that was designed with bipartisan efforts in mind. It's simply impossible to work together with a group of people that live in a totally different reality crafted by their chosen leader. I had more to that, but I'll just cut it off there.
We'll get through it during the conversation. We're going to throw it now over to Cam Higby.
Yeah, I don't think that Trump is capable of, nor do I think that he has the influence to overthrow democracy or disintegrate it in this country. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be my opening statement. I think he's, done plenty of things. He's tried to do plenty of sneaky things, and it's not worked each time. So,
okay, we're going to now throw it over to Destiny.
I think democracy is on the ballot. I think we are a democratic, constitutional republic. I think Donald Trump stands opposed to every single part of that system. Donald Trump does not like democracy. He wants to rule as the single executive, as the king who can make decisions that circumvents Congress or decisions that are beyond the courts. It's why he asked for criminal immunity from the Supreme Court. It's why he tries to do immigration policy and other policy through executive order. He doesn't value the legislature. I think that we are a constitutional republic. We have a constitution that all of us are supposed to answer to. Donald Trump says that when he needs to, he will terminate the Constitution. If he needs to find voter fraud, if he needs to hunt political enemies, he says that he can suspend the Constitution or terminate it and go after those people. And we are a republic where the power is vested in our representatives to make decisions for us. We are not a monarchy. We are not ruled by one man. We are supposed to have an entire legislative branch. And Donald Trump's entire political career is all centered around only staffing the government with sycophants, is only centered around trying to get people in Congress who will worship him and who will help him circumvent responsibility and the law in any way, size, shape possible, like when he avoided his conviction in the Senate for impeachment because people, for some reason, in the Senate thought that you can't impeach a non-sitting president, which is ridiculous. So, yeah, I think that Donald Trump stands opposed to every single foundational idea about our democracy, and he stands opposed to the very reasons that Sean mentioned that our democracy is one of the longest living ones on the planet thus far.
Okay, so from there, we're going to leave it to be open for you guys to go back and forth. Who wants to grab it first?
I can grab it. I love grabbing things.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was a very, very simple question posed initially. I think Sean said that if we're going to say that Donald Trump represents some existential threat this time as opposed to last time, what's changed? And the thing that's changed is that Donald Trump didn't understand how any part of the government worked last time. This time he's got a slightly better understanding, so he's only picking people that will go along with him for his illegal plots instead of assuming they'll go along with him for his illegal plots like he did last time. So I think picking people like J.D. Vance, who has signaled that he would back him on any attempted coup stuff like what he tried for January 6th, I think is a good example of a meaningful change in Trump's next administration as opposed to his last one.
Okay, we're going to throw it. I want to throw, that was a response to Actual Justice Warrior. So you think you can take that?
Yeah, so I mean, you bring up January 6th, which is unsurprising. You've been doing a million, billion, zillion hours of streaming on this specific issue, so I understand that that's your go-to point. But my question is that January 6th, if we take it in its worst reading, was a plot involving the electors. If Donald Trump is elected the 47th president of the United States, that will be his second term in office, which according to the 22nd Amendment, he is not eligible to run for president again. So how are you going to cite this plot that's not even possible if he wins as a mechanism for him to remain in power when he can't put himself on the ballot as per the 22nd Amendment? Again, you have to demonstrate that Donald Trump is going to be able to end democracy with the methods that are available to him. Do you think he's going to overthrow the 22nd Amendment, that Republicans are going to gain enough in the House and the Senate and statewide in order to get rid of that so he can serve for additional terms? Like, how is this plot that you're imagining in your brain going to actually work?
Two very simple things. One, he said that he doesn't like the Constitution, so he can terminate it at will. He's already said that once. I don't think he actually could do that. But the second thing, the nice thing about kings is they always have children to run their kingdom for them after they're gone. He could very easily do the same type of plot, but instead do it to get Trump Jr. in office instead of himself.
So he's gonna pass it to Trump Jr. non-electorally. Like how exactly is that gonna work? I'm just
The same way that he tried to pass it to himself non-electorally, where he got people to lie and say they were electors and then try to get the VP to certify the vote in Congress.
okay again, but that had to do with him being on the ballot and an elector scheme, and like we all understand that to a
His
certain
son now
extent.
be on the ballot next election cycle?
Well, he wouldn't be on the ballot for the 2028 presidency. Like, so he's gonna
Why, he
put
can't
his,
run for the presidency in 2028?
Oh, his son is gonna run. So if his son is elected and he wins, like, how is that ending democracy? Like we've had
It's not democracy if he wins. It's if they try to make him win when he didn't win, like he tried to do in 2020.
Oh, okay, I see. So you think he's gonna hand it off to Don Jr. Like that's the line that you're going with.
I mean, he could. I don't know. Why not? He tried to illegally hand it off to himself last time. Why wouldn't he do it to his son next time? Who knows?
I think all the arguments to try to prove that like democracy is going to end if Trump wins the election this year is just going to be based on conjecture. Like, I think the arguments about like Trump appointing people to government, specifically in like courts and stuff, that worship him and that will follow him into the depths of hell to get him reelected is just like not true. Like the courts repeatedly, when he tried to like claim election fraud and stuff like that, repeatedly rejected to hear claims. They repeatedly rejected to hear appeals. Even the Supreme Court with a 6 conservative supermajority rejected to hear anything about it. So like if it wasn't achievable last time, I highly doubt with all of these people that are allegedly loyal to Trump in the government, even right now, I highly doubt he would ever manage to pull it off.
So I think there's a couple things here. I think like we're talking about the risk to democracy in an immediate sense. And I don't think we need to limit it to just that. We can talk about ways that he could sort of chip away at democracy and lay the foundation for democracy being stress tested in the future. But I guess my question to my two conservative co-panelists here are, what is the logic around, like, first of all, do you acknowledge that he stress tested democracy in 2020? And what, if you do, what would be the logic of allowing him a second chance to try to stress test it in ways that maybe we haven't even thought of yet?
Also, as a quick thing before that question is answered, just as a response to that, what was just said, first of all, the courts didn't reject him. He got more criminal immunity than he even asked for, number one. Number two, J.D. Vance is a person that he would put in that would go along with him further than Pence did. So that's an example of him picking somebody that would help him. And then number three, when we say every single judge ruled against him, they did in the election fraud case. But Judge Cannon in Florida basically tossed his entire case in Mar-a-Lago and at the very least has succeeded in delaying it past the election. So that's not true either.
Yeah. So you could argue that they sided with him on like presidential immunity stuff, but that's literally written into the Constitution. Like that's not siding.
Literally not. It's literally not written. I promise you it's not.
To rule upon the Constitution, but when you look at like actual rejection of election-related cases, in December 11th, according to BBC, they federal courts refused to hear his cases. AP in February 22nd, 2021, they refused to hear his cases. And NBC reported on March 8th, 2021, that the final election challenge was rejected by federal courts. All Trump appointees, by the way. In addition, 9 judges that he appointed in 2020 also refused to hear specifically like ballot disputes, right?
On election fraud, yes. But for the criminal immunity, that's not in the Constitution. The Supreme Court invented that for Trump, for Donald Trump.
But again, your argument seems to be that our institutions are strong enough to withstand someone like Trump. But my question is, how do you justify allowing someone to come in and check those institutions and actually stress them and see how far these checks and balances actually go to constrain him?
Well, first of all, prior to your question, you were like, well, I'm not saying democracy is going to end. I'm just saying it's going to be chipped away. So you got to kind of commit to your argument, because if you're saying it's not going to end, then you kind of agree with me in that regard, that the institutions are well suited to hold up to whatever challenges, real or imagined, that Trump will bring up. So it seems a little weaselly for you to back off of the premise of the debate by saying like, oh, well, he might chip away at our institutions. I mean, you could argue that prosecuting your political opponent is chipping away at our institutions. You could argue that using new interpretations or setting up test cases in order to set up for a future prosecution against a former president is a chip at our institutions and at the norms that we're typically used to in the United States of America. You know, the things that ultimately ended up leading to that immunity decision from the Supreme Court. That's not really the end of democracy. I don't think that our system was destroyed over the last 4 years under the Biden administration. So like, I think you got to either commit, like Stephen actually is, to some kind of crazy plot that Trump's going to overthrow our entire system of government, or not.
Also,
I
hold
don't-
on.
I don't think
Prosecuting
the-
political opponents. Biden is not prosecuting political opponents. I don't know what that has to do with. I think that we have a system of criminal law in this country, and upholding the system of criminal law is one of our institutions. The judicial courts, are part of the institutions of the United States. It's one of the three branches of government. So the idea that a court or a prosecutor saying that Donald Trump's committed crimes and then having him stand trial in court is an upholding of our institutions. It's not a violation of them.
I also reject your absolutist take here. You're saying that there's no middle ground. That I will tell you, during the Trump era, my faith in our institutions actually went up. It made me appreciate our institutions in a way that I didn't before because they so sufficiently checked him. What I'm saying is that you don't necessarily need to make the case that democracy itself is going to end on January 20th, 2025 if he's elected. I'm saying he can do sufficient damage to our institutions during his time in office, such that it would be the case later on that it would be even easier to chip away at a later date.
So democracy
I don't understand why you're
really, it's not
taking that.
really on the ballot.
You agree to the premise of this debate is democracy on the ballot, meaning this election will decide whether or not democracy continues. That's a premise of this debate that you agreed to.
That's a strict interpretation of what we're talking about here. I think you can make the case that democracy is in peril with someone like Donald Trump taking office, even if it means what it could potentially mean down the line.
The premise is
I don't interpret that premise the same way that you do.
It's not vague at all.
No, I'm saying democracy can be on the ballot, and you can make that case by pointing to the many times that he stress tested our system and the fact that he will do it again.
I mean, it seems, again, it's like democracy is not on the ballot, but it is on the ballot when it's convenient in this way. It's like, I don't know what exactly I'm arguing against.
I don't know if it's going to be like literally the end of democracy, but we know that he tried to end it his first time. I have no idea like what he has in mind in terms of what he wants to do down the line. I know that he tried to end the Democratic project the first time he was in office. So I'm not saying that's entirely off the table. I'm saying that is possible, but there's also these considerations over here. How do you two justify seeing what he did? You both seem intelligent, informed. How do you justify watching what he did in the months leading into January 6th and watch what he did on January 6th and decide to yourself, you know what, I'm okay with like giving him another chance to do something similar should he want to do that? How do you justify that?
I think the premise of the debate is not are we voting for Trump or not. I think the premise of the debate is democracy on the ballot, which puts the burden of proof to prove that democracy is on the ballot to you, right? We're not claiming that like we justify what Trump did, or we're not trying to justify what Trump did, right? We're not saying that all of these things you're talking about that Trump did were great or good things. I actually think that a lot of them were bad things, but that doesn't mean that democracy is on the ballot. There's no way that our institutions won't withstand whatever like Trump throws at them, right? We have checks and balances in the country, and anything he tries to do to deteriorate away from those checks and balances, I believe, will be checked by those very checks and balances.
Okay, just hold on real quick. Democracy is on the ballot, and you are definitionally incorrect. We've lost some of those checks and balances. One of them is the criminal prosecution of the President of the United States. Most people would agree, most reasonable people would agree, the president probably shouldn't be able to commit crimes while he's in office because criminal law is important and the public has an interest in not seeing criminals committing crimes, especially the president of the United States. The judiciary is a check that we have lost essentially on the president. So that's one check that's completely gone. Republicans have shown that they are willing to sycophantically support Donald Trump in basically whatever he wants to do. That's why on January 6th, he had 11 senators plus I think Jim Jordan, a representative that was willing to go along with his contesting the election, contesting the certification of the results. So that shows that the legislature is somewhat compromised as well. And then you've got the president of the United States, who is going to be, or who would be Donald Trump, who believes, I guess, in the unitary executive theory, where he thinks that he can go and he can talk to whoever he wants in whatever department he wants and fire and hire whoever he wants in order to get them to do whatever he wants. So it kind of seems like he wants to just be one man that rules everything. So in terms of checks and balances existing, seems like those aren't doing too hot right now with the way that Donald Trump wants to run things. And if you talk about the Constitution, which should be your ultimate check, Donald Trump says that he wants to terminate the Constitution when it's convenient to him. So I don't see how we're so confident that our checks and balances would survive another term of Trump when he already succeeded in eroding like 1.5 of them.
Yeah, Destiny, do you seriously think that Trump is going to terminate the Constitution and be successful in doing that?
I wouldn't have seriously thought that Donald Trump would try to rig the election, and I wouldn't think that 75% of Republicans today would still believe that the last election was stolen. So, I mean, I wouldn't think either of those things too, but...
Destiny, that's not the question I asked you. Like, do you actually believe that Donald Trump is going to, like, rescind the Constitution successfully?
I think he would want to. Yes. Would he have the ability to do so? I'm not sure. I don't know right now.
Well, that's the question. Is like, would Trump have the ability to like overthrow democracy in the country? That's the entire premise of the debate. Again, like, even you're not sure that he's going to rescind the Constitution, but you keep citing it over and over again as like a talking point against Trump.
The question is democracy on the ballot?
Like, what?
With Barack Obama, closing Guantanamo Bay was on the ballot. Yes, but he didn't do it. I mean, because he wasn't able to do it. What is the question? You're not asking me if something on the ballot. You're asking, can you say with 100% certainty that in the future this particular thing will happen? Nobody knows that about what's on the ballot. That's not how voting works.
But with the Guantanamo Bay thing that you're talking about, right? Like, this was like a stated presidential goal, yes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. So is overthrowing democracy a stated presidential goal from Donald Trump?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, actually, well, the Constitution thing, sure. It's not a state, like, he's not running on this, though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes,
like,
he is.
No, he's not. Okay. How's he running on
When
it?
the president says that I would arrest people for burning the flag, it's a violation of the First Amendment. The amendments are part of the Constitution, by the way.
That's
The president said he would suspend the Constitution. He would terminate the Constitution in order to go after voter fraud. That's kind of an attack on democracy. Yes, he said he would do. He said he'd be a dictator on day one. Like, how am I supposed to read that?
We have to get past the election. We have to get past the election first. Do my co-panelists here? Are you guys 100% confident that he's not going to engage in some kind of similar scheme to 2020? Are you guys confident that he's not going to try to influence election officials all over the country to circumvent the will of the voters like he did in 2020? Are you guys 100% confident he's not going to do that again?
You're changing the parameters of the debate, but that's fine. But to Stephen's point about, he wants to arrest people he said he wants to arrest people for burning the American flag. He said that in 2016. When he was running then, he said that for long periods of time in his life. And when he was in office, he did absolutely nothing to forward those goals. And you also say, this presidential immunity, it doesn't exist. People don't want the president to commit crimes and all that. Well, I happen to remember when Barack Obama actually murdered an American citizen abroad, Abdul al-Awlaki. And Eric Holder, his attorney general, our top law enforcement officer, looked directly into the camera and he said, due process doesn't necessarily mean judicial process. So unlike Bill Barr, who didn't side with Trump in that particular instance, Eric Holder absolutely did, and yet our government still stands, despite the fact that Obama not only did that for him, who, by the way, very likely he was a propagandist for Al-Qaeda, very likely betrayed our country, although you could try somebody in absentia. Obama didn't bother to do that. But then again, his son, who was 16 years old, was also killed, an American citizen, in another country by Obama. And again, it was under the same justification that due process doesn't equal judicial process. The difference between your flag quote and Eric Holder and Obama's actions is that Trump was in office. He did nothing about the American flag. But what we saw from the Obama administration is that they did claim and receive that power to kill Americans abroad that they deemed to be terrorists. And again, even this is not enough to be so hyperbolic and say, oh my God, democracy's quite literally on the ballot for our side.
Trump did try to do things to further those goals. He just didn't realize how any part of the government works because Donald Trump was a fucking moron. So initially, he thought that if he just appointed people that were strong Republicans that supported him, that they would support him in basically doing whatever he wanted them to do. That's why so many people resigned in the final days. That's why he thought that he could get Barr to go along with any plot that he wanted to. And Barr, who was a Trump loyalist through and through, eventually had to call it quits and ended up resigning. When you talk about comparing Barack Obama trying to see if he can assassinate an American citizen or not, the question was does the president have the ability to order certain types of military strikes or assassinations on U.S. citizens? The process that Obama went through wasn't going to the Supreme Court saying, I need criminal immunity in case I want to commit crimes. It was going to the Office of Legal Counsel, and it was seeing if he thought that the President of the United States had the authority to do this and if it was in the legal clear. He never said that I'm beyond judicial review. He never asked for any amending to the Constitution, and he certainly didn't ask Congress to protect him and shield him from the liability of any of his actions. So no, it's not even remotely comparable. If Donald Trump would have gone to...
He just presumed that he had the ability to do that. Like he goes to... When you talk about legal counsel, those are his lawyers to come up with the justification.
You're dead wrong. You're completely wrong. You misunderstand completely the structure of government. The OLC, the White House counsels, those are not his personal lawyers. Personal lawyers.
They're his lawyers.
They're not his lawyers. They're the President of the United States lawyers.
Which is the office that he held.
But there's an important distinction. For instance, when you say Donald Trump's lawyers, like Sidney Powell and Giuliani and Eastman, these people aren't affiliated with government. These are his personal lawyers who serve at his personal pleasure for his personal gain and benefit. When Barack Obama goes to the Office of Legal Counsel, when he confers with his Attorney General for the DOJ, he's trying to ensure that he's doing his best to stay within the bounds of the law. Donald Trump wants to change the law. Barack Obama didn't go to the Supreme Court and ask for permission to kill somebody. Donald Trump went to the Supreme Court and asked for criminal immunity so they can do what he wants.
But you actually should change the law, and he didn't ask for criminal immunity to do what he wants. He petitioned for criminal immunity because he was faced with prosecutions after he left office. He wasn't in power when he did that. Obama used the White House counsel to justify granting himself new powers, like you said, without changing a law, without consulting the judicial branch, and he just did it. He invented it whole cloth, and there was presumed immunity when he did it because he never feared any kind of prosecution for that. And by the way,
I could kill this. It's so easy. You said Barack Obama didn't fear any kind of prosecution. Then why even go to the OLC?
To get some kind of basic legal justification.
Wait. Why would he need a justification? We never fear the fact that you're saying this, and you're smarter. You know this. You went to school for criminal law, right? Why would I go and talk to a lawyer if I never thought that I would ever be criminally liable?
They talk to lawyers to do everything. Like Trump talked to lawyers before he did like what the January 6th stuff. He consulted with lawyers.
He asked lawyers to help him scheme and plot, and they said that it wouldn't work, and so he found other ones that would say he would. Barack Obama didn't go to the OLC, get a disfavorable opinion, and then find a new lawyer to tell him otherwise. It's absolutely not even remotely comparable.
Well, his White House lawyers gave him whatever paper thin justification he needed right from the jump, so he didn't have to get a second opinion.
If the justification was paper thin, then why didn't anybody with standing bring a case to the Supreme Court and have it overruled? Or why didn't Congress legislate and create a new statute to limit the powers of the executive if they felt like it was over the line? It seems like every other branch of government disagrees with you, so I don't know what your evidence is for the fact that the justification wasn't good.
I mean, the justification is that he didn't have to seek any due process, try somebody in absentia. Like, we have precedent for this. If you're going to accuse somebody of treason, which is providing aid and comfort to our enemies, that's actually a crime in the Constitution that you would actually have to prosecute. He just executed this guy. And then his son.
The guy wasn't on American soil. He didn't just execute the dude, full stop.
I mean,
he was operating in his function as the commander-in-chief.
The Supreme Court has ruled that the Constitution goes wherever the U.S. government goes. Also, we are getting off the topic at hand, which is, of course, you presenting the case that Trump is going to end democracy.
Yes, he tried to end democracy. He failed, generally because Pence stood between him and democracy. And now he's picked a vice president, a new one, not the same one that he had before, who wouldn't stand between him and democracy, but he'd help him. He'd be his crony. So, yeah, I think that's pretty scary.
I would like to go back to the question that I asked before, because I do think it's relevant. I do think it's relevant to the topic. Sorry, Cam, what?
I was asking Destiny how he knows that JD Vance is going to like follow him into the pits of hell and like contest elections with him. Like,
because JD Vance said explicitly that he would have gone with him in his 2020 plot and refused to certify the electoral vote.
Where did he say that? When did he say that?
I think a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even before that.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna look into it.
Does anybody? I hate to contribute to the debate, but he said it during the VP like race process. He went on one of the channel news stations and he asked, "And would you do what VP like Pence wouldn't do?" And he said, "Yes, he would."
Going back to the question that I asked before, you said that it was changing the parameters of the debate for me to ask the question of, are you confident that Trump isn't going to try to scheme and try to subvert the will of the voters again in 2024? But I don't think it's moving away from the topic whatsoever. If he is ultimately successful in doing that, that will be the end of democracy. If he subverts the will of millions of voters, if he somehow finds enough loyalists to get it done this time, that would be the end of the American democratic experiment. And who the fuck knows where we go from there? So I think the question is relevant. Do you feel confident that he's not going to try to do something similar?
We don't have to prove that to like be on the winning side of this argument. The burden of proof is on you to prove that democracy is on the ballot, okay? That seems to be, Destiny has no problem staying on that topic, apparently. You are the only one who wants to deviate from it, okay?
Wait.
If Trump try to do anything,
if Trump steals this election,
you have to prove that he's going to be successful in doing something.
If Trump steals this election, would that be the end of American democracy?
If he steals the election,
yes.
Sure, yeah.
So, I mean, I guess if he gets VP Harris,
he's not president though.
if he gets VP Harris to not certify the election, then I guess.
No, we're talking about corruptly influencing election officials all over the country. You have no idea how many loyalists have been installed in counties and districts all over the country.
Why didn't they come through for him in 2020 then?
A lot of them tried to. Pence stopped them.
And it didn't work, did it? It didn't work, did it?
If you're honest with yourself, you would say, he's probably going to try to do something again. And the fact that you guys
I'm not
don't
saying
see
he's
this
not
as
going
an
to. I'm just
issue.
telling you that I don't need to prove that he's not going to win this argument. You have to prove that he's going to, and he's going to be successful to win this argument.
You're
How is
also
that even
saying like
possible?
democracy's on the ballot, but also like even if you vote for Kamala, then democracy's at risk because he's scheming. So even in that scenario, it's not really on the ballot because you're saying it's the outcome from both scenarios. Also, like, is it your contention that if like Trump's plot to not certify the election, throw it to the House of Representatives would have occurred, that would be like the end of American democracy? Like this is like the unprecedented thing that would like
knows.
obliterate our system.
Nobody knows. The risk was there, though. Nobody has any idea what would have happened.
If he was successful.
Nobody has any idea what would have happened if Pence went along with his scheme. Nobody knows. Absolutely
Okay,
no. It would have been a
let's say he went along and
full-on-
didn't certify. They throw it to the House of Representatives, and the House of Representatives ends up voting that Trump won the election. Like, do you think that's the end of our democratic system?
I think that, yes, the American democracy that has been meaningfully and forever altered, that a president was able to choose himself, entrench his own power, and circumvent the actual will of the people and the vote of the people, yes.
So, like, it's unprecedented, never happened before. Like, definitely would end our system for sure.
Would it end our entire system? I don't think that life would end. I don't think the planet would be
not our
destroyed,
system,
and the
but, like,
country
our
would probably.
democratic system.
If we consider electing like the president as one of the cornerstones of our democracy, then that thing has been severely damaged and potentially ended. Sure, yeah.
But
It
what
is,
if Trump?
Of course, a cornerstone. It's of course a pillar of democracy.
Yeah, no, it's
Yes.
important for sure. But like, what if Trump was able to like successfully send like Republicans to various swing states and then get them to throw out ballots from Democrats because of fraud and flip those states in order to be in his camp? Like, what if he did it to like 4 states? Would
Well,
that
I mean,
like
if he found
Of course,
actual
if it was
fraud,
bullshit
then
fraud.
Well, no, like whether like it was Republicans that went down and what should have been a nonpartisan process. Like if he was able to do that, would that have like definitely like ended our system?
That would end the American Democratic Project as we know it, and it would be something else after that. And that doesn't mean that it would like get rid of every democratic aspect moving forward, but that would be the end of the current project that we're in right now. Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I 100% disagree with that because like
Okay. I think
that
Yeah,
already
I-
happened in the Hayes election. Like 3 Republicans, the Ulysses Grant's government, sent down their own people to toss out ballots from 4 states in order to get Hayes certified as the winner of the election. And then there's the Hayes Compromise, which is quite famous in our country, where the Democrats ended up giving up the presidential election that they likely would have won in order to get Union troops being pulled out of the government. So we're still considered a democracy up, according to you guys, up until now. And that was the election of 1876. So I'm guessing even that wouldn't destroy our system.
Okay, I'm gonna calling it as a W here then. Because now the debate has shifted to democracy is on the ballot, but is there a 1% chance or 100%
it's
chance that
not
it would
on the
end?
ballot.
If we're gonna argue over like the percentage chance, I mean, we're never gonna be able to agree on that. But like, I'm content with like, if this is where we're at, we're like, yeah, he would definitely threaten it. There's definitely like a huge risk. We just don't know like the percentage chance of him being successful.
Well, I don't know what he's
going
going to do without even the powers of the presidency.
Well, the question would be, do we agree that he threatened democracy on his last term? Do we agree with that?
I think he tried to scheme in order to get the election, and he went further than we've seen in a very long time, and it was not great.
Hold on.
I don't know.
Wait. I want to hear. I have to hear. I'm going to call moderator. I want an answer to that from both people. Did Donald Trump threaten democracy for his last electoral term with the way that he tried to choose who was going to win the presidency? I want an answer from both people.
No.
Cam,
Oh my God.
would you like to answer that as well?
What was the answer?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that he deployed some like esoteric, like legal bullshit, and it didn't work. And democracy still exists. And I think that, as Sean pointed out, random esoteric legal schemes like this have been deployed in the past, and democracy continued to exist. We're not shifting the debate to a different topic. We never conceded that Trump is like.
So yes or no? What are we at?
Democracy. We're still holding you to like you have to prove that he's going to overthrow democracy. Obviously, it's the premise of the debate.
Wait. Okay. So do we think he did or he didn't like, was he with threat? Did he threaten democracy in his last presidential term or no?
No, I would say absolutely not.
Okay, so we both say no. Okay, so we think that it was okay. You both think you're both on board. You think it was okay. It was within the bounds of what's acceptable in our system, a good faith interpretation of our laws, of our structure, of our order, for Donald Trump to try to illegitimately insert false electors and have the vice president switch the results of the election. We think that that's an okay thing.
You're just like deploying a false dichotomy on us, right? We never said that because it wasn't a threat to democracy that it was necessarily a good thing, right? Neither of us actually. I think I actually started.
When I say a
saying
good
that it was
thing,
a bad thing, right?
When I say
good, it
good,
was a good thing.
okay. When I say good, I mean good as in it comports with the best faith interpretation of our system.
I know. We don't have to agree to that either. We can say that it's a bad faith interpretation of the system, but that doesn't mean that it's a threat to democracy. Saying that it's not a threat to democracy does not imply that we think it's a good faith attempt to interpret.
Okay, wait. Do you think the vice president trying to change the results of the election? Do you think that is a threat to our democracy? Do you think that's democratic?
Wait. I never said that it was. Again, I never said that.
I didn't say good.'re on the last one. I'm asking you, with the vice president being told by the president to pick him as the leader again, to make him win the election, is that an attack on our democracy, or would that be acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have to like say that it's not an attack on democracy, but as Sean pointed out, that it's happened in the past, and democracy still exists. Democracy is not.
That's not what I'm asking.
That specific attack, as you put it, did not overthrow democracy. If it was successful, it wouldn't have overthrown democracy. We would have still had democracy. And like, you can talk about like bad faith. Like politicians act in bad faith all the time, right?
No, they don't. Nope, not like this. You're wrong.
They do.
Nope.
Absolutely, they do. The Inflation Reduction Act is bad faith, lying about.
Absolutely. Oh my God! Don't even go there. I don't want to deflect.
I don't want to deflect a different policy. But
I will say, AJW, Hutch did try to interject first, so I do want to give him a chance to talk. Then we'll go back to you, and then I have a question for everybody.
Well, I was going to say to Cam, when you say like he deployed some esoteric, what exactly did you say there?
Yeah, like I'm gonna think that he probably did pretty much the same thing that they did to him, but he did it first, right? He deployed some like esoteric legal theory and tried to like find loopholes so that he could remain in office. I don't have to concede.
When you say that he did the same thing that was done to him, are you referring to people that were in the congressional halls on January 6th in 2016 when Biden was certifying the election? What are you equating that with?
What do you mean? What am I equating that with?
You said that he did the same thing to them that they did to him. What do you mean by that?
I think that Democrats, like in their own states, have deployed like esoteric legal theories against Trump. Yeah, for sure. But that's just a passing comment, right? I don't have to like I don't know what you're saying. Like, why are you talking about January 6th?
Well, when have you ever seen a Democrat politician engage in the months-long sort of scheming that Trump was in a multi-pronged effort in like several swing states, and then incite a mob to storm the Capitol and then watch them for 3 hours before asking them to leave? Have you ever seen a Democrat do anything like that before?
So I'm gonna fundamentally reject the idea that he incited the mob. First of all, second of all, like I don't need to like show you that Democrats have done this to like the same extent, right? But Democrats have actually absolutely contested elections. Al Gore did it in 2000. John Kerry did it in 2004. And Hillary Clinton.
Why are you lying?
I'm not.
Those contested elections those happened in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said no, and then it ended. That was it.
Wait. No. I'm not talking about like legal proceedings. I'm talking about like rhetoric. Like John Kerry went on a whole
No one cares about rhetoric. We're talking about Donald Trump scheming involving officials, involving unofficial people. Yes, that was part of what happened on January 6th. He incited a riot. Yes, that's what happened.
Yes. He didn't incite a riot. He did not incite a riot.
He did.
His entire campaign was run on like, look at the BLM people. They're rioting, and we're the party or the ticket of law and order. That was the entire.
Yeah, that didn't happen. Yeah, but what happened on January 6th? That wasn't law and order, was it?
No shit, it wasn't law and order, Destiny. Nobody said that it was law and order, but you have to prove that that's what Trump wanted them to do.
Yeah, the evidence not in your favor. The evidence while it's happening is Donald Trump sat and watched TV. He didn't do anything to call any of the people off. He wouldn't make a tweet to tell the people to go home.
All right, let's go through the timeline. Let's go through the timeline real quick. Let's go through the timeline. Okay. 12:53 p.m., 19 minutes before Trump ended his speech, rioters overran the perimeter. At 2 p.m., the Capitol went on lockdown as the first rioters breached the building. At 2:38, Trump tweeted, "Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful." This was 2 hours after the perimeter ran, but only 38 minutes, roughly, according to CNN, after they first breached the building. Okay, around 2:45 p.m.
Do you think that? Wait. Do you think? Wait. Hold on. Do you want to go through the? Hold on. Do you want to go through the timeline or not?
Do you want to go through the timeline?
Wait. Let's go through the timeline. Hold on. Why would you tweet Why would you tweet, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement? They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful if they're not peaceful. They haven't been peaceful for an hour and a half.
Encouraging them to be peaceful.
While they're already rioting? What are you talking about? They're not peaceful. They've already broken in.
Destiny? Oh my God.
No. If the goal was to de-escalate, why was Ivanka? Why was his son? Why were lawmakers? Why was everybody calling Donald Trump?
You asked me a question. I'm going to answer the question. Destiny, you asked me a question. Now I'm going to answer the question. So why might Trump tweet, remain peaceful and respect our law enforcement, while his people that he has immense influence over are actively like fighting against police officers and being violent? Because
he's trying to take advantage of the violence. He wanted them to do it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything. I would like to have Destiny respond, and then I do want to go to Actual Justice Warrior because he's been waiting patiently.
He wanted them to be violent. Also, you very conveniently skipped over that at around 2:15, people were outside saying, hang Mike Pence, as they were already broken through the restricted zone. And then at 2:24, Donald Trump tweeted, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts. The USA demands the truth. Do you agree that that tweet was encouraging the violence that was already going on?
No. Do you have any evidence that Trump knew about the like hanging thing? And also, one second. Also, if I put on I don't know, a Kamala Harris 2024 hat and I go and put up like a gallows of JD Vance, does that immediately implicate Kamala Harris?
No, but if Kamala Harris saw it, if Kamala Harris saw it and she was sitting there watching it on TV as it was happening, and she sat and watched TV for 3 hours while BLM people broke into the Capitol building, and when people came up to her, they were begging her to call them off or begging her to make them stop. She was like, you know what? Maybe they deserve it. Fuck them. Then I'd say, you know what? Kind of seems like she does want that to happen.
You making the connection that Trump was watching TV?
Actual Justice has been waiting for a little bit, so I do want to throw it over to him.
Yeah, nobody disputes that there was actually, I shouldn't say nobody. Nobody here disputes that there was a riot on the Capitol on January 6th. But the idea that Trump incited it by telling them to go over and peacefully protest.
He never said that.
Okay, well, at the end of his speech, he did, but okay.
No, he didn't. If he did, he said that 20 minutes into the speech, he said, I know you'll be marching peacefully. That wasn't anywhere near the end of his speech.
Whatever.
This was an hour and 15 minutes long. It is whatever. Because the last things he said were, we're going to fight like hell.
You win greatest factoid award. I got you.
I know. Being factually correct isn't really popular with conservatives, but we kind of like doing it sometimes. I know.
It's fine. Whatever. That's fine. Anyway, so yeah, the plan was, again, for anybody who wasn't paying attention, and it's a dumb plan, it was based on an insane interpretation of the Electoral Count Act, was for these people to protest at the Capitol and put pressure on officials to not certify the election so that it could be kicked to the Congress, which they would then vote based on one vote per state, and the Republicans had more majorities in more states in order to give him the election. The idea that the plan was for them to riot and like threaten to kill people and all that is just not true. It's ridiculous. And if Trump's goal was to take the government by force, he probably wouldn't send a bunch of absolute idiots into the Capitol to do so. He might think about using his power as commander-in-chief to order the military to do that. So yeah, like, he encouraged people to protest. He encouraged them to advocate for an insanely stupid interpretation of the Electoral Count Act. We haven't even gotten into his interpretation of how you can do alternate electors, which were fraudulent electors. All of that was horrible stuff. For sure.
Yeah, just be clear. There was no
inexcusable stuff. All that is illegal stuff from his legal team, and he should not have done that. That being said, this was not the end of democracy, and the idea that he planned to have them steal Nancy Pelosi's podium to take the presidency is ridiculous.
Nobody's saying that he specifically wanted them to break into Nancy Pelosi's office. What we're saying is, and Cam, you left something out of your timeline. He arrived at the White House at 1:20 p.m. He went into the White House dining room at 1:25 p.m. He did put out 2 tepid tweets as cops were being brutalized and they were breaking into the Capitol. He put out 2 tepid tweets saying, stay peaceful during a riot while people were literally dying. And it took him almost 3 hours to come out with a statement asking them to go home. And this was after he had several aides and family members begging him to make a post asking them to leave. He refused to do it for 3 hours.
So wait, before we go to anybody responding, Lauren Southern has just messaged the staff here, and apparently she wants back in. But because, of course, she dropped out and now she wants back in, I need to ask the people on here, because it's your guys' show, since you're the guests. Do you want her back?
I'm fine with that.
I'm okay.
I'm fine with that.
Cam?
Sure.
Okay. Danabo, you heard him. You guys can continue.
We keep saying interpretation of ECA also. This wasn't an interpretation of the ECA. It was saying we don't think the ECA is legal, so we're just going to ignore the ECA. That was the quote-unquote interpretation. Okay.
No, the interpretation was that the vice president can certify it, therefore he can like not certify the election and then throw it to the Congress. Like that was the whole point.
No, the whole point was him saying that the ECA is not legal. We don't believe in the ECA. That was the whole point. That's why every time they say constitutional, they refer to the 12th Amendment. They're saying that they think that the 12th Amendment supersedes the ECA, and the ECA is unconstitutional. That's why they.
Pence had his own White House counsel that told him, "You cannot do this. This is not an option." And Pence tried to communicate this to Trump over and over and over and over again, and it just didn't get through. Trump was asking him to do something that Pence's own lawyers were telling him, "This is unconstitutional. You do not have that option."
Also, hold on. Just by definition, definitionally, if Trump would have succeeded and would have stayed in office, and then now he's about to leave office, would you be saying then that like it wasn't a threat to democracy and democracy didn't end?
Yeah, that's what I said for the Hayes election. It didn't end.
Okay, wait. So we can say that even if the president would have flipped the election and stay in office, democracy. So what would be the counting of ending democracy to you then? Do we have to show that it's going to be like an apocalypse?
I mean, presumably there would be another election in that scenario. Like, I mean, a lot of people argue that Gore won Florida and that Bush was installed by the Supreme Court with a ridiculous decision that they said was not precedent.
That didn't answer my question at all.
Did withhold that.
Like it's probably gonna be like precedent that like there's not elections in the future, or that Trump is choosing who gets to be elected, or that like executive members of the government are choosing who gets elected. I've heard you call Trump a dictator like 100 times on your stream. So maybe something along those.
Dictator. Yeah, because he says things like a dictator, right? When Trump says a massive fraud of this type of magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution, that's dictator talk. And when Donald Trump says, I would be a dictator on day one, that's dictator talk.
Oh, come on, Destiny.
Okay.
That was a joke and you know it.
Wait, I do want to ask, I've been waiting to ask this question. I hate to cut off here, but this is something that's been on my mind. So there seems to be a divide about one side saying like, you have to prove 100% that this election is going to be the end of democracy. If democracy is on the ballot, then, Trump wins and democracy's over. That's what we would have to prove. The other side seems to be saying, well, we can't prove that 100%. We can't know the future, but that it's at risk. If there was, like, say, some other country and there was a person who got elected and then they degraded institutions and then further elections, it got worse and worse and worse, would we not say that election where that person started that process was a threat to democracy? I know you'd have to look back, but the question is, does it have to be an all or nothing for the question's premise?
Move the goalposts.
No. I'm happy to move the goalpost. If we want to talk about like threats to democracy rather than democracy ending and democracy being on the ballot, I'll take like a point blank concession from everybody on the panel who disagrees with me.
Okay, wait. So just curious. Let's say Donald Trump finds a way to appoint his son as the next president, but like everything else continues as normal. Would we say that the democracy ended, or is it still democracy?
If he appointed his son the next president,
yeah,
then that would be the end of our like electoral system.
What's the difference between him appointing his son versus him like flipping and choosing himself as the winner after January 6th?
Well, if you're doing like a contested election where we have a process for it, which, but again, I don't buy into this.
It wasn't a contested election and the process was exhausted. That's
first of all, it was literally like, did Trump have a good case? No. But was it contested? Yeah, that's what all the court cases were about.
No, and they were settled. It was over. There was no big contested.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to argue over the definition of contested. But that's different from saying my son is the president after me. Like, do you not understand that?
No, I don't at all. Okay, explain it to me. What's the difference? Donald Trump lost the election fair and square. The Americans and the states voted against him, and he tried to change that outcome in the Congress. Why would it be different if he did it for him or for his son?
If you appoint your son, you're saying if his son was on the ballot and then he lost and then they had like the same argument and then they ended up using this technique to get his son, is that what you're saying?
Too much on the technique. You seem to be saying that even if the president was elected illegitimately, he appointed himself the next ruler. You're saying democracy isn't over. So in that case, I'm just wondering
the specifics matter. So like I'm asking
if you violate the election and you choose unilaterally to make yourself the next president or make somebody else the next president, you're saying democracy isn't over.
It depends on so you're saying if Don Jr. runs like Trump did and ends up in the same situation and then that plot actually works, is that what you're asking? Or are you just saying he comes into, like, he just appoints his son the next president? Like,
I'm saying, let's say he's president this time. Let's say that his son runs, and let's say that his son loses the election, but he runs the same scheme, and he manages to make it so that the so that his son actually wins because this time JD Vance goes along with it. Is that like the end of democracy, or what is that?
Okay, quickly, we've also added Pondering in order to balance it out because Hippy Dippy, it's supposed to have a balance, 3v3. If it's, Cam Higby and it just, that's the reason why he's here, explaining that. Okay.
Welcome in here, brother.
What up?
Lauren, nice to meet you. We've never spoke.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Do you have any thoughts?
I haven't been listening. I've been trying to figure out text. I'm gonna have to sit and catch up on what's going on, but I'm sure all the liberals are incorrect here.
I'm happy you could make it. I'm happy. I'm happy we're getting, man, it's a 3v3 now. Now it's an even bigger event. Huzzah.
Yeah, thanks for having
What is our? I'm just curious. What is the minimum threshold then from the other side? Since apparently the president unilaterally deciding that he's going to remain president, that's not destroying democracy. What is like our minimum threshold that we're looking at here for like major threat to democracy?
Sorry, can you explain, since I just got in here, what do you mean by the president unilaterally deciding he's going to remain president? Are you just...
So Sean and Camby seem to be of the impression that if the president were to find a way to remain president and circumvent the will of the voters, that wouldn't actually be the end of democracy or a threat to democracy. So we're trying to figure out like, well, what exactly is the, what would we have to...
This is like a hypothetical.
Yes.
Not, okay.
Yeah, he's just trying to establish the threshold, what constitutes a threat to democracy.
Wait, Sean, what's your argument there? Because I think...
oh, well, first of all, they keep saying threat to democracy, but they're the ones who are saying democracy's on the ballot, that it's going to end if Trump were to win. Now Steven's asking this question, but he won't clarify exactly how, like, his son is supposed to be the president. If he hands the presidency like a throne to his son, then yes, that would be a monarchy, and that would be the end of democracy.
So I could be talking out my ass. I don't know if Dylan sent you all an email.
Wait, hold on, wait, I'm sorry, wait, hold on, wait. I'm sorry, I need to clarify. The process doesn't matter. The question is very simple.
It actually does matter.
No, hold on. The thing is if the leader chooses the next leader in opposition to what the people choose, it doesn't matter how, we're assuming some extra legal manner, okay? So if the leader chooses the next leader against the will of the people, you seem to be saying that that's not really a threat to democracy, as long as like the presidential election the next time goes back to normal.
The end of democracy.
So what do we have to prove here? That democracy is ending? If democracy is on the ballot...
I want to know what the method that Trump's going to overthrow democracy is, because you're saying January 6th, but he can't even be on the ballot.
We're not talking about the method.
You just asked me a separate question, and now you're avoiding this other point when I just asked.
Why should we have to explain that?
Okay,
I want to appeal to the moderator. Dylan, tell me, okay, because now it seems like we have an unpassable bar, because we've said that what if the president finds a way to remain in power, and they're saying, oh, well, even if that would happen, that doesn't seem to necessarily be a threat to democracy, even if he does it with extra legal whatever means, as long as it goes back to normal afterwards. So I don't even know what the threshold is of what we're trying to prove now.
Well, I mean, are you asking me like what was my intent with the question? Is that what you're asking me?
No,
Did you ever clarify? Yeah.
Okay, would you like to define it? And then after, we're going to go to Pondering.
Who are you talking to, Dylan?
I was asking Actual Justice Warrior.
As everybody
That's just you. That's just you, Sean. He was talking to you. He says, do you want to define it?
Oh, define what? I wasn't listening.
The end of democracy.
Oh, so first of all, yes, like in terms of a threat, which is not what we're talking about, yes, this would be a problem because it could become a norm. But again, this strategy actually worked. And you talk about handing it over to the next guy. This happened in the election of 1876. Like, it led to the Hayes Compromise, which is absolutely disastrous, where they ended up sacrificing the civil liberties of Black Americans in order to get the presidency in an election that was incredibly sketchy, that most historians still say that they can't determine who won. But because that didn't become a pattern, then our system was able to endure it. So yeah, it's a risk, it's a threat. But again, you're saying democracy is on the ballot. It is going to be ended if Trump won.
Where does that follow? See, that's where I'm confused. Unless Dylan sent some sort of like clarifying email out, that when I say is democracy on the ballot, I mean if Trump is elected with 100% certainty, democracy ends, as in there are no more elections. Yeah. That is a ridiculous.
You can't even put forward. You can't even put forward.
I can't hear anything. Pondering, you want to say that one more time, and then we'll have one person respond.
again, I wasn't an initial like invitee to this, so maybe there was like an email clarifying what the hell ballot democracy on the ballot means. But just that phrase does not at all imply that if Donald Trump is elected, it's 100% guaranteed that there will be no more future elections. It's ridiculous. Stephen gave you an example all the way back to the very fucking beginning about how President Obama campaigned on closing Guantanamo Bay. Ergo, you could say that Guantanamo Bay was on the ballot. It's still here, even though Obama was elected twice. So it's just a ridiculously bad faith interpretation because you can't defend. You know you can't defend that Donald Trump.
Where's the campaign promise to end democracy?
Wait one second.
So now it's got to be an explicit campaign plan.
That's what
I'm gonna mute. I'll mute.
That's what you just cited.
Well, no, you said that it has to be a fact.
Lawrence Southern, you wanted to respond to it, and you haven't spoken yet, so I wanted to throw it to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, I was very clear. It was Counterpoints, Connor, that reached out to me to join this debate. When he initially told me the subject, whether democracy was on the ballot or not, which to me seems like a pretty clear question, but I asked for clarification to him because I said, I'm not sure there's going to be much disagreement here unless it is literally a black and white question of they think democracy is going to come to an end if Trump is elected. And he said, yeah, that is the debate that we're having. So that was the impression I was under when I came into here. I imagine Sean and I had a conversation yesterday about this conversation, and we were like, man, that's a pretty bizarre position, but I guess that's what they're taking. But if you're not taking that, then we are absolutely happy to have you cede the debate at this point that democracy is not, in fact,
well, Stephen Hutch. What was your interpretation? Well, hang on. I'm sorry. Just real quick. Can you clarify that? Was that your interpretation of the prompt? Because I don't think either of you will say with 100% certitude that Donald Trump will end democracy if he is elected.
Well, okay. Can I? No. Well, the thing. Can I clarify? I mean, I wrote the question. I guess I should clarify what I meant if this wasn't communicated. I didn't necessarily mean that we know for 100% certain that Trump is going to end democracy. At least that's what I wrote it. That couldn't have been communicated. I just generally meant that, like, democracy, the issue of democracy, like, could it be genuinely affected by this election? For example, like the institutions that hold up our democratic world, like our democratic institutions being crippled or undermined, making it so in future elections.
Why are we doing this? Why are you explaining this? This is retarded.
Because I was
using their
definitions.
No, hold on. Using their definitions, and they would all agree with this. If you were to elect literally God Emperor resurrected Stalin Hitler, and he were to destroy American democracy for 1 year, and then we were to come back and survive and be okay, they would say, oh, then that wasn't a threat. That was just destroy democracy. That didn't destroy democracy.
I don't believe I've ever taken that position, sir.
That Stalin God Hitler is going to come back and like destroy democracy for a year. Like we reject that that's going to happen, right? So like if I say abortion is on the ballot this year, what does that mean to you? To me, abortion on the ballot means that there's one party who is promising that they will ban abortion, and there's one party that is promising they will make it accessible to people. Abortion is on the ballot. Depending on who you vote for, you will have different abortion access. If I say democracy is on the ballot, what that means to me is that if I vote for the wrong candidate, democracy will cease to exist.
Well, can I?
Do you think?
Wait, on the moderator. Wait, one second. I just want to ask. So just clarify for definitional reasons. Would that mean if somebody said abortion is on the ballot, that means like the options is abortion is gone this election, or everybody can abort everything forever?
No, obviously not. He kind of tacitly conceded that if abortion's on the ballot, it doesn't guarantee that if a certain person is elected, that abortion will become federal law of the land or will be outlawed. He fucking knows it, which is why he moved the goalpost a bit. Okay, sure.
Exactly abortion. That's exactly what they're running on.
But there's also myriad pieces of legislation that could serve as like a middle ground between those two possible outcomes that you're not even like.
Here's the question: does abortion only mean it is completely illegal in every single circumstance, or it's full term, 9-month, right up until the baby's completely out of the vagina, you can shoot it in the head, it's a-okay, or is there a whole middle ground?
When they say abortion, they're obviously talking about elective abortions, right? So what you do when you say that is you're creating a dichotomy that one party will give it to you and one party will take it away from you.
There's not even a dichotomy in the Democratic Party. What are you talking about?
You think the entire Democratic Party? Move on. Then concede.
No, it's not a concession. You're being.
No, I know it's not a concession. I'm asking you.
Do you think? Hold on. Do you think that abortion? Do you think the issue? Do you think that there is a dichotomy on the issue of abortion, on the issue of gun control? Do you think there's a dichotomy on that?
When we talk about abortion colloquially, we're obviously talking about elective abortions by and large. So when you say abortion on the ballot, talking about elective abortions,
Is it a 6-week abortion? Is it an 8-week abortion? Is it a 10-week abortion? Is it 12?
This
Are
is
there
actual
exceptions for the life of the
retardation.
mother?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I wanna pull back this abortion thing for a second. All right, so like my issue, and I gave you guys a way easier out than like prove 100%
We
that
don't need an
that
out.
the gum is gonna. Well, I mean, you kind of do because
No, we
like,
don't. Your
Lauren
interpretation
asked for
is ridiculous.
clarification, and this is what we got. So like,
The
this
fucking
is
guy who created the prompt, Sean, disagrees with you. That's the thing. You can appeal to Lauren. I can appeal to the guy
of the
who
author
created the
theory.
prompt.
Look into it.
But
But anyway,
wait, let me just
my
be clear.
question
Like,
was, do you
that's-
have a
okay. I just want to
Do you have
clarify. That was how I wrote the question. Like, you can still argue, like, hey, Trump 100% needs to end democracy. You need to prove that, and that's the standard I want to hold. But that's what I meant when I wrote the question.
I have the receipts.
From counterpoints,
Can you
maybe, but
do-
counterpoints might have interpreted my question incorrectly. But that's
Yeah, so
always,
if we
that's
want to
how I was
move on
going to
to
wrote the
so
question.
pissed.
Can we not
I'm
entertain
sorry.
this argument that whether or not
So
something's
pissed.
on the ballot means it's a
We'll move
binary
on.
choice? Nobody in the real world
Destiny.
believes this. These people
I-
don't believe this. Like nobody.
Look at me, look at me.
Why
I
are we
thought this was a
pretend- why are we
retarded
letting the
debate in the
conservatives
first place.
gaslight us into this
I'm not
stupid fucking
gaslighting.
Let's
position?
move on
It's
to
so
what
retarded.
Dylan intended when he wrote the question. Just concede that
Hey.
that you do not know that Trump is going to be a dictator, and let's move on.
If somebody says that
That doesn't mean it's
immigration is
not
on the ballot, does that mean that you either have
No,
open
that's not what I
borders
asked
or
you,
no
Destiny.
immigration? Is that what it means
You
when
wanna move
immigration
on
is
or
on the
no?
ballot? It's either
You wanna
open
move
borders
on
or
or
no
no?
immigration.
Oh
This
my
is
God,
so
let the
stupid.
lady talk. Rude.
Okay, Lauren Southern?
I literally was like, I'm down for the debate, but I just want to clarify the topic is definitely, in quotes, if Trump is elected, it is the end of democracy, correct? And he said, we went back and forth. Yes, I will solidify this. And then Danabo is democracy on the ballot 2024. So it was just, I was just reiterated the same thing. Yes, is democracy on the ballot? But I went and I was like, hey,
Well,
I just want to
the
clarify.
question is
if Trump
democracy on the
elected, it's
ballot,
the end of democracy,
but I
right?
Yeah,
didn't-
you
I didn't-
lured us here under false pretenses, just like that man who offered me
I-
candy
no,
in the
I
back.
didn't
No,
mean-
I
I
think
didn't
it's
mean to
good.
lure you under false pretenses.
We've established
that's
that
not how
nothing
I
can
meant
ever
to
be.
read the question.
No, I think it's good. No, I think it's good because we've established that literally nothing can ever be on the ballot in any election ever, like any issue whatsoever, because you can't preordain a particular outcome. Abortion is on the ballot in this particular election, but no matter who wins, you can't guarantee, like if Vice President Harris wins, we can't guarantee that abortion will become law of the land. That's the goal. That's something they strive towards, but we can't guarantee it. The standard you all created out of thin air is just fucking
It
stupid.
wasn't out of thin air. We asked for clarification, but also I will point out that
And it was
all I
clarified.
I
And it
asked
was
for like
clarified.
I asked for yeah after the fact, after I'm in the van. But I just pointed out, I asked for like a plausible scenario of like how he was going to do this, and you guys all screamed at me. Like, I mean,
Why,
come on.
why do
I think
why is
wait,
it
the
on us
plausible
to
scenario-
do-
the
to do
plausible
that in the first
scenario-
place?
Like, I was being really nice about
Wait,
that.
how about,
I mean,
how about
why
wait,
is it
let's,
on-
wait,
why is
let's start the question then on a level playing field, and let me ask it like this, because this is a question AJW had. Is there, because let's say you could say, okay, Donald Trump has some anti-democratic tendencies, but what we have strong institutions. What is the plausible scenario that he could actually hurt American democracy so much that it could cause its end?
Yes,
Dylan,
I
can we
think that,
resolve the previous topic first?
no. When the question
What
is,
do you
is
mean, like,
democracy?
should I resolve the topic? I can't resolve
No,
that.
no, no.
What
Like,
do you
can we
mean?
get a resolution? Like, can they concede and then we can move on to the next topic?
We're not conceding. No, absolutely not.
All right. So then why are we moving on?
When somebody says is democracy on the ballot, the question is meaning, obviously, will if we elect a person, is there going to be a significant departure from what our currently understood democratic norms are? That's what
Yes.
we're talking about, right? That's what it means. That's what everybody understood that question to mean. That's what any reasonable human being would understand that question to mean. Okay? So then the question is will Donald Trump do things that we would consider a significant departure from American democratic values? Okay? And the answer we would say is yes.
When I get asked to a piano recital, I ask, where do I sit? What do I need to do? And that's what Lauren did for this conversation. So when there's confusion, you ask for clarification. Then we receive clarification on it. And now you're mad at us for going based on the information that we were told when we were lured into the back of your van. So, like, I don't know why you're getting all mad because you didn't act for clarification. I mean,
My bad. Can we agree on this then? Hitler was not a threat to German democracy because they went back to being a democracy. Can you agree with that?
they completely changed the government over there.
No, but they went back.
went
No,
back.
wait. Germany went back. Germany went back. Germany's fine today, right? Do you agree that Germany's fine today?
Destiny, you're. Oh my
No,
God.
answer that.
You're
I need
totally
an answer to that.
misrepresenting
I
the whole
need an answer to
situation.
that. No. Don't
In this
pivot.
situation,
Don't pivot. Answer
I'm
that
gonna
question.
answer. I'm not pivoting. I'm not pivoting,
He's
Destiny.
pivoting. Let me know when it's done, and I'm gonna answer the
Answer the
question.
question,
Cam,
Destiny.
well, let's-
Don't even know what I'm
Cam,
going to say because I haven't said it.
Cam, you can answer the question, and then you can ask your question that you wanted to ask. And then I want to
Okay.
actually come back to the question I asked because I posed it, and it is a question.
Okay, great. Okay, so in the case of Germany, Germany had a dictator that rose to power and degraded the democratic systems that the country previously had. Okay,
You're not even right. Hitler did not rise to the dictator. Hitler didn't rise to the dictator. Can we just go on to the next thing? You don't know your history.
Wait, stop.
Okay. You don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, Destiny, you've established he doesn't know what he's talking about. Let him write his alt history.
Great. I don't know what I'm talking about. Are you happy, Destiny? Okay, great. So it took a regime fall for democracy to return to Germany and several decades of Western occupation in Germany for that democracy to be restored to Germany. Okay, so that's not what happened in the Rutherford B. Hayes case that Sean cited earlier, where this exact thing that you're claiming will overthrow democracy happened, and it resulted in democracy continuing on to today. Clearly, you agree that democracy exists today. Otherwise, you wouldn't be arguing that it's on the ballot.
Democracy in Germany exists today. You just proved Destiny's point. The idea that democracy is only threatened if it's permanently ended is fucking stupid. Now you're moving the goalposts again.
We're saying that it will happen without a regime.
If there's a decades-long gap in between democracy and dictatorship, that's something else.
Yeah. All right. So do you think that there's a meaningful difference? I'm just going to ask you of having external governments overthrow your dictatorship and then install a democratic government in half your country, by the way, because the Soviet Union took over the other half, or at least, whatever. They split the country, but do you think there's a meaningful difference between that and then an election that's contested, that has this stupid electors thing, and then a corrupt compromise that's one of the stains on American history, but then the next election functions as normal? Do you understand that there's a difference?
Okay, I understand there's a difference, so there's no threat. Then do you agree that the Civil War wasn't a threat to democracy? Because that wasn't another country, right?
Is the Civil War? That's actually an interesting question.
No, it's not. They weren't another country. They weren't. They didn't have the legal right to secede. Just because you say you
was
do
it
doesn't mean you do.
Democracy, if these people wanted to secede, and then they ended up going to war with the other half of the country.
Nope.
I don't
wasn't
know.
another country. You defined it as external country,
Right, whatever,
external occupation.
a conflict from within the country about whether or not you could break apart. That's actually an interesting question.
No, it's not. Hold on. No, it's very easy to solve. We came back immediately after Reconstruction, everything. We're good. Boom. So it wasn't a threat, right? Say that. The Civil War wasn't a threat to democracy. It didn't end democracy. It was. Yeah,
but what you're failing to realize is that the Civil War.
I want to hear the answer to that. The Civil War didn't end democracy. Say that. So the Civil War didn't end democracy, right?
It's not analogous.
Why? No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be. It didn't end
absolutely
democracy.
matters. You're posing an analogy. It has to be analogous. Holy shit.
I'm just saying if
Civil
it's
War
your
was a military
definition.
uprising. Trump attempted to do this in a civil manner, manipulating laws in the United States. As Sean pointed out, again, it's happened before. If Trump wanted to overthrow the government with the military, like what happened in the Civil War, he would have done it, but he didn't.
That's not true. There's a whole number of reasons.
Where does it say
Hold
that
on, wait. I need you to accept that the Civil War didn't end democracy. So democracy was never on the ballot when it came to the Civil War because it didn't end democracy.
Well, that's why it's an interesting question, because after the Civil War, there was an occupation of the South by Union troops to suppress their democratic ambitions because they wanted a bunch of crazy stuff. So
I think the ridiculousness and bad faith.
It really did kind of cut off it really did kind of cut off this popular movement to separate from the country. It was definitely a threat to the country, but I'm not that's why it's an interesting question, because these people wanted to leave the nation, and theoretically, if they voted democratically, they might have gotten their way if it was based on a ballot initiative. So
if we were having a debate before the Civil War, if we were having a debate before the Civil War, and somebody were to say, do you think if we had a Civil War, would that be a threat to democracy? Would your answer be yes or no?
It depends on the nature of the Civil War. If you're fighting over voting to leave the country, is it undemocratic to force them to stay? I think it's the right thing to force them to stay, even though it might be undemocratic. That's why I have to think about it.
Is Russia a democracy?
No. Well,
why not? They vote, don't they? Okay, yeah. So Russia's a democracy. So nothing Putin said is a threat to democracy.
Where they kill the opposition people, and
rigged elections. Wait, so do rigged elections make you not a democracy? Careful, you know where I'm going with this.
If you rig an election consistently to get this 97% or whatever vote.
Okay, so wait. So then if there's a new president after Putin, then we would say that all along it was a democracy because it went back, right? As long as there's a democratic president elected at some point in the future.
If they have a new dictator after he dies, then no.
Let's say it's a democratically elected president after Putin dies. So then it was just a temporary departure. It's not it goes back to being a democracy, right? So in '91, Putin and everybody else, that democracy was never on the ballot.
I couldn't tell you if the Russian Federation was a legit democracy to start out with or not. Like, I'm not that read up on Russian history, but I would assume it depends on the structure of their government. If they like turn into a democracy, then they're a democracy. If that makes sense. But I like.
Yeah,
I
what was that question?
yeah, it's like well, you're like the next guy gets elected, but if he gets elected and then like he's the president for like 2 decades or whatever, like then that's probably not legit. I would assume.
The perspective of someone who engages in politics from like a liberal perspective, it's been frustrating to watch right-wing pundits come up. The best defense that they come up with for Trump was that, yeah, he may try to like stress test democracy, but our institutions will hold. And to people like myself, I think I'll speak for Destiny and Josiah, that just seems like completely untenable. Why would you even allow someone to have that opportunity in the first place?
Yeah, the thing we hear all the time is that the guardrails hold. And it's like this idea that you have a friend who drives his Ford F-150 into the guardrails on a highway, and then you toss him a fresh set of fucking keys. The guardrails held.
That's not the argument we're making. That's the premise of the debate, and we're holding you to it. We're not. That's not our only defense of Trump, right? I mean, me personally, like I came into this like literally 30 minutes, or not 30 minutes, but I was warned 3 hours in advance. So like, yeah, I don't have like an elaborate like defense of Trump that I'm going to deploy against Destiny right now. So I'm holding to the standard of the debate.
Am I allowed to hop in here?
Sure.
May I be permitted?
You are permitted.
Okay, so obviously there's been a lot of talk about the electors scandal here, and I get that, we can concede that was a stress test to democracy, probably naughty. But what would Trump, like, realistically in this upcoming term, like, he could not run again afterwards. What is your guys' argument for how he will deconstruct democracy if he were to win an election this upcoming?
Trump could pressure every single part of his cabinet or administration to launch fake investigations into his political opponents. Because now the Supreme Court has granted him full criminal immunity from any conversations he has with his cabinet about things that might result in their firing. So that could be one big thing.
We also have to talk about Trump reshaping the GOP in his image. Like, he's been really successful at pushing out politicians who don't bend the knee and sort of like bend their will to him. So the very makeup of the legislation.
The American system, then, if that's something the president is able to do, wouldn't that be
that's the point. The
president wasn't supposed to be able to do it, but because of the weird Supreme Court shit, now for some reason he's able to.
So now Kamala can do that as well. So is it really a question of whether democracy is on the line, or is it already lost in your opinion?
Well, the difference is that when Democrats do bad things, they don't go to the Supreme Court and beg for criminal immunity or go in front of the civil court and say we lied.
As if it's a given for every Democrat that will ever exist in human history. Obviously, it's not.
We haven't seen one abuse it yet, because Donald Trump pardoned every single crony fuck that worked with him, and Biden is literally watching his son get convicted.
Doesn't mean it won't happen.
Lauren, respectfully,
he'll probably pardon Hunter Biden, if we're being honest, when the election is over. Like,
you think he will? You think he'll pardon his son?
I think that's quite likely.
He could have pardoned his son from the beginning. He could have fired David Weiss. He could have done anything.
Basic standard in practice is unpopular pardons happen when you're a lame duck and it's the end of the election. Like, that's obviously what goes down.
He had like 3 or 4 different ways.
The stress test for democracy, prosecuting your political opponent, like, and by the way,
he didn't prosecute his political opponent. What are you talking about?
He has a special counsel for the classified documents.
There's no evidence that Biden was involved at any step of the way in any of these special counsel, in any of the
that is true.
No evidence whatsoever that Biden was involved with that.
Yeah, nobody said that. So
did the special counsel spring up out of the
earth? You probably weren't paying attention.
Wait, stop. Wait, no. It's too much. I can't hear anything because everybody's talking at the same time. Okay, so the question was, I saw something posted by AJW, but let's finish the conversation first about the feasibility of Trump attacking democracy before we move on to the idea of, are Democrats prosecuting Trump, and is that an attack on democracy? So first, the feasibility. Destiny, you were hitting on this earlier, and I wanted to go to Hutch because he hasn't had much time to speak about what feasible plan could Trump employ that makes you scared about our democracy.
Yeah, I already said it. He could pressure his cabinet officials to do whatever they can in their capacity to arrest and jail political opponents and fabricate charges for him if he wants to.
Hutch?
I mean, to expand on that, like Donald Trump, it is a full-on cult of personality. if you do not swear loyalty to him and the MAGA movement, he will do everything in his power to make sure that you don't win your next election and you don't belong in the Republican Party anymore. And we've just seen that more and more. The House, if we just look at the chaos in the House, ousting their speaker for the first time in history, and you have characters like Marjorie Taylor Greene who are elevated to extreme positions of influence within the party. She's one of the party's highest fundraisers. She's on 2 subcommittee hearings, and she is fucking insane. So, I don't know if you can necessarily say that there's like this grave immediate threat, but the impact on the legislative branch over time of it being corrupted by Trump-like people who rise to prominence because of him, who knows what that leads to in the future. I don't even think it's on me to tell you like a really detailed, specific plan of what I think is going to happen to corruptly influence things moving forward. I can just speak in generalities.
Quickly to Pondering before we go to the conservatives for a response. Conservatives, right-wingers, libertarians, whatever you define yourself. Pondering.
Well, because even the plan that he tried to enact in 2020 was, I mean, just prima facie ridiculous, which is why so many people in his own Justice Department was like, this is fucking stupid. So even any like sort of plan that we could potentially devise would sound categorically ridiculous, but it didn't stop him from attempting in the first place. These institutions are not divinely crafted. They're not divinely enforced. This isn't the fucking Little Mermaid. It's not supernatural. These institutions are comprised of people. Part of Trump's mission in the second term is to staff these institutions with people who are more loyal to him than the Constitution. And then the other thing I wanted to say implicit to Lauren's question way back like 10 minutes ago is this assumes that there is a system of government which is bad faith proof. There's just not. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is, like when you said, oh, so if this is permissible for a president to do, doesn't that mean the democracy is already dead? No. Every system of government is subject to bad faith. They're fungible, right? And so if you get a sufficiently motivated bad faith actor who is not checked by his party, by other institutions, that poses a great threat. And that's the issue with Trump. He wants to deliberately test these institutions and eventually break them to his benefit. That's not a weakness of the American system. It's a weakness of every fucking system.
Now, before we go to the conservatives, right-wingers, libertarians, whatever, to respond, I do want to quickly say that we're 15 minutes from our scheduled stop time. We can go over if anybody wants to go over, but for those who want to ask questions, now is the last time to donate because we're going to rapid fire through the questions once we got the moment before letting these fine people go. Now, who wants to take it off?
Ladies first.
I would just say like I'm good probably until like 7:30 at the most.
Okay. Lauren Southern?
Are you ladies firsting me? I'm still putting my thoughts together here, Sean. You go right ahead.
All right, well, then other guy go. Cam.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I want to respond to something Hutch said. Right, we're just doing responses, I guess. Yeah, so you said that like you basically went off of conjecture. Like, who knows? I don't have to prove what his plan is. I don't have to outline a plan that he's going to act on. Well, it's my position that Kamala Harris is going to use the exact same immunities that Donald Trump gained in the Supreme Court to install another president after her choice, right? Like, if you're not going to outline a plan, like I can just as well make like baseless allegations based on conjecture. Like, I can just as well do that as you.
The difference is that we never saw Kamala try to do anything like that.
Great. I'm not finished.
We will outline a plan. We did. I gave a plan.
Yeah,
Answer my plan. Answer my plan.
So again, and then also Josiah said that Trump's just going to like align the government with officials that are loyal to him. It seems like he pretty much tried to do the same thing from 2017 to 2020, and didn't look like it worked. Most of his people abandoned him. So. Yeah.
No, wait a minute. So no, Donald Trump when he was president
before I do want to let you guys respond, but it was 1, 2, 3. I do want to give them a little bit more time because Dylan, we got to be fair.
Right. I mean, when we ask for like a plausible plan, it's like doesn't have to be super detailed. It's just I'm curious what the method would be for a second-term president, like because the method that he tried before didn't work, and again, you don't really have that option as a first-term president. In addition to that, like you guys are alleging that he's going to prosecute his political opponents and do all of this stuff. I mean, Steven cited that he said he was going to be a dictator. He forgets that was said he's going to be a dictator for one day, like close the border, and I forgot what the other promise was. But this guy already ran on explicitly lock her up, and he didn't even investigate Hillary Clinton in the way that many people who wanted that investigation wanted him to do so. So like past behavior.
Hold on.
No, Hutch,
just interrupt when I'm talking like I did for you. Oh wait, I didn't.
All right, I apologize.
Past behavior is normally a predictor of future outcome, and Trump hasn't shown himself competent enough to actually have a successful coup, to actually have sycophants like Eric Holder that are serving him in the Justice Department. on top of that, our institutions did hold. That's a good thing. And he is currently being prosecuted by the opposition party through a bunch of cases that are first of its kind cases, or we just established a precedent that this is even possible right before. There was a 14th Amendment case where they tried to force him off the ballot. All of this crazy stuff that, again, are chipping away at the democratic process, the norms and all that. But even then, I still don't believe that those actions by the other party are a threat to democracy in the way that you guys are portraying this nebulous plan that you can't quite define from Trump as.
I think it's insane to give Trump credit for not prosecuting Hillary Clinton when presidents don't do that. They cannot, like, according to the norms that have been in place since like the 70s, they don't have the authority to just direct the DOJ to go after their political opponents. That didn't stop him from trying. He
repeatedly.
publicly. Go ahead, pick that up.
Let's just wait. We have a specific plan. Donald Trump will tell everybody in his cabinet, okay, to go after political opponents, launch fake investigations, fabricate evidence, throw them in jail if he wants to, because he knows that he can do that now without any criminal overview whatsoever. And you said that past behavior was a predictor of future behavior. That's what he tried to do in the past, but he picked the wrong people. This time he's picking different people because he knows he needs to. That's why he picked Vance, who said he would have gone along with the plot in 2020 when Pence said that he wouldn't. So we've got past behavior predicting future behavior. We've got a change in action so that it can effect his outcome before. And we have a particular plan that's now protected by the Supreme Court, and it wasn't before.
You'll have Attorney General Rudy Giuliani, day one. You'll have some unscrupulous guy that would be willing to actually go along with him.
So wait one moment. Pondering's been waiting, but Lauren Southern, have you finished gathering your thoughts, or should I throw it to Pondering first?
I'm just really quickly reading some research that I wanted to mention.
I can throw it to
just
some
let me
other
make
people
sure it's in
first.
line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pondering?
So a couple of things. Yes, this idea that because Donald Trump used his executive power to make appointments in his first term means that he will follow the same sort of appointment process in his second term is ridiculous. The entire point is he has publicly said that he was betrayed by rhinos, people like Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions, and others, because he followed the conventional Republican conservative wisdom and appointed people who were, for all their faults, more loyal to the Constitution than to him. He would have the same discretion at his disposal as President of the United States. He would just pick different people. He would pick Matt Gaetz. He would pick Rudy Giuliani or whoever. And even if the Senate, let's say they've got to be Senate confirmed. No, he could just make them acting Secretary of Defense, acting Attorney General. So there are loopholes that Donald Trump could exploit. Sean gave the whole game away when he's like, past behavior is a predictor of future performance. Donald Trump did threaten democracy. That was part of his past behavior. So to me, that's a tacit concession in and of itself, because you just gave the game away that he'll try to do it again in a second term. These institutions are fungible and they are exploitable. You have offered nothing other than that Trump tried and failed the first time. Sean's a crime guy. I imagine that Sean would say that an attempted murderer is still a threat. It's still a big fucking deal when you try to murder somebody and fail. And if someone said, well, hey, this attempted murderer wasn't a threat because they failed in the murder attempt, and you need not fear any future attempt because they failed in the first attempt, absolutely categorically ridiculous. You know your position's ridiculous. Being a Trump supporter in this position is just wildly indefensible. Silly
Again,
sad.
about the acting position or appointing people in that way. The Senate has a very easy method of avoiding that, and it's actually been adjudicated. They just have to say that they're in session even when they're not in session. So even those cabinet level appointments do have checks. Thank you for reminding me of that. So yeah, the institutions hold, and yes, Trump ran a ridiculous elector scheme. And theoretically, I guess if he could run for a third term, then maybe that would be something we would be worried about after he ran for his second term. But he can't run for a third term. Like, he's even more locked out of extending his reign beyond that, which was the point that I was trying to make. And I have not yet heard
what does the Senate have to do?
A sufficient solution to the 22nd Amendment issue.
What does the Senate have to do with the question here of having an acting AG or having an acting or temporary?
The Senate cannot be in session as like a little tricky trick in order to block those kind of appointments.
Wait. You can still have an acting member though without a Senate confirmation, right? Doesn't the acting part mean that they don't? Yeah, so you can have an acting. By the way, we don't even have to guess, but he abused an acting attorney general because he almost fired his last acting attorney general, Rosen, because Rosen wouldn't go along with a plot to persecute, political opponents and to have and to lie to states about finding voter fraud. So he's already done exactly this with acting, with unconfirmed, with non-Senate confirmed acting AGs. He's already done this.
And this, by the way, this also generously assumes if there's a Republican Senate, which is very possible, I mean, my God, we have to defend like 8 different seats in incumbent elections. There's no guarantee that a Republican Senate would do anything other than kowtow to him.
Wait, hold on. Also, you don't have to grant the argument because they already said past behavior is predictive of future behavior. For past behavior, there were 11 Republican senators that were willing to go along with the decertification of the election. So he's already got enough people in the Senate that are loyal to him to go through with whatever he wants. So how do you escape the idea of Donald Trump will abuse his cabinet to go after political opponents directly in whatever way he possibly can, knowing that he's tried it in the past, knowing that he now has criminal immunity, and knowing that he'll appoint better people this time? It won't be Attorney General Giuliani. It'll be Attorney General Sidney Powell or Attorney General, it won't be Attorney General William Barr. It'll be Attorney General Rudy Giuliani or Sidney Powell or Eastman.
I mean, kind of interesting how threatening Democrats in particular find the idea of the Trump administration, if elected, actually stacking officials and people in charge of administrations and bureaucracies with like-minded individuals. So what the voters want. If you actually look at the data, they came out with a study just last year going over all of the records of United States federal bureaucracy employees to see who actually stacks people ideologically aligned with them more. And the chart showed that the political appointees chosen to work in the federal government by party during the 6 presidential terms that began in 1997. The data shows Democrat presidents staff up their administrations a lot more quickly and with significantly more of their own like-minded people than Republican presidents. In fact, during Republican administrations, a significant number of Democrat appointees.
Hold on, just as a real quick to head off this point. Wait, just a real quick. None of us care about staffing it with like-minded people. It's about people that are willing to engage in criminal behavior.
Right,
Those are the people that we're talking about.
Because the people staffed by President Clinton in 1997 still turned power over when George W. Bush, the Republican, won in 2000. Same thing when Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton in 2016. Barack Obama was the Democratic president of the United States. Hillary Clinton didn't scheme with Obama, and then Vice President Joe Biden steal the election from Trump. Maybe Democrats are just more reliably dependent in terms of honoring democracy and democratic norms than the Republican
Saying that
counterparts.
as long as he's not appointing like-minded people that would go along with an elector's scheme.
So
Or any criminal behavior. Any criminal behavior.
I mean, I just. So the idea that he could just put anybody in this acting position is not correct. I mean, it sounded like it was made up nonsense to me, but I looked it up. We actually have a law governing the vacancies, so he would still have to pick somebody that is already in a high level of whatever department for at least 90 days. So if his goal is to throw somebody as the acting attorney general day one, they would have to be in the attorney general's office under Biden. And this is according to, I always hate these abbreviations, the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, which was passed in 1998, probably to restrain Bill Clinton by the Republicans, if we're being perfectly honest. So again, he can't just appoint anyone. He has to appoint somebody who's in the office in a high level position. I'll look for the exact definition of high level, so like we can get that clarified.
Okay, so so that's fair then. So that would basically completely destroy our argument, unless we could possibly cite to an example where he literally did exactly the same thing, where he found the environmental head lawyer guy, Jeff Clark, who he was going to appoint to the acting head position and do the exact thing that we were accusing him of potentially doing in the future, which he exactly did. So none of this matters. The DOJ is a massive department. There's like 50 different branches of potential heads of inferior officers that you could choose from. He could find one to follow through on his scheming. He already did once. Again, past behavior predicts future behavior.
EPA?
One second. I just want to say we're closing the supers. If you're donating on either the website or on YouTube, we're closing it off in the next 5 minutes. We're going to try to wrap this up. And since we're trying to wrap this up, I want Justice Warrior to answer that question. And then I want to ask about the thing that Sean keeps bringing up, which is the possible political persecution of Donald Trump using the justice system. Is that an attack on democracy, which is often a conservative counter? Over to you, AJW.
Yeah, I don't know what he said. I don't know which department he was referring to. Can I just get a clarification? Are you talking about filling the EPA?
No, I'm talking about in the DOJ. There is like in the it's underneath the assistant attorney general, I think, underneath the acting or underneath the attorney general, after the deputy general. There's another guy, and there's beneath that, I think there's like the environmental protection, the environmental something, the environmental office or whatever bullshit of the DOJ. And Jeff Clark was the head of that, and he tried to make him the acting attorney general as well. There's plenty of people in the DOJ. There's a ton of different people. What?
Did that work? Did he become acting?
No, because half the DOJ threatened to quit when he was going to do it because they realized that he was trying to destroy the government.
I don't know if that position is qualified. I just was trying to clarify because you said environmental, and I wasn't sure if the EPA was covered under this act. But
No,
yeah,
I'm talking about Jeff Clark, and I'm talking about what he tried to do. He's already tried to do all these things.
fine, fair enough. What was the question again? The other question?
Oh, my main
Why
question.
would we would do the same thing? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, my question had to do with political persecution. You brought up a few times, Sean, that the Democrats and the government is going after Trump legally, trying to go after him for these crimes or supposed crimes, depending on your perspective. I wanted to ask the room, is that an example of an attack on democracy, the political persecution of an opponent, or is it a bunch of hogwash?
I mean, it's an attack on.
Let's start with Sean, because he's been bringing it up.
It's an attack on the norms in our institutions. I mean, trying to remove Trump through the ballot, through the 14th Amendment. I mean, you could argue that that's an attack on our democracy, but our institutions held in those particular cases. But I mean, if you look at these different court cases, now granted, I will point out that they're not even all remotely federal. One is even a local one, the Alvin Bragg case. What you're seeing is weird new interpretations, first time ever used interpretations in order to target Trump. I mean, the Bragg case, where it's a money thing, falsifying business records, those were enhanced to felony charges based on the fact that he was trying to influence the outcome of an election. Now, that's fine that you could say that that's what you're trying to go for, but those falsifications occurred after the election. So it was, even on its face, that's a very odd upgrade to felony charges, especially from a guy who ran on and downgrades more felony charges than anyone in the history of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. You have the Georgia case, where they actually prosecuted, as a test case, widely reported, young thug under the RICO statute in order to have a case more similar than the Georgia teacher statute in order to prosecute Donald Trump. And it was described by the media as a test case. It's still ongoing. And again, that's very unusual to try a completely different defendant in a new way, just so you have precedent in order to try your political opponent, who, by the way, you ran on prosecuting. So yeah, these are problems, but do they necessarily rise to the point of overthrowing our democracy? No, I think that is a heavy burden. I think it can change the norms. And honestly, I know a lot of people on the left are worried that Trump might win again, and he might follow suit with what the Democrats have demonstrated that they will do when they're in power. So, but I don't think it's a threat to democracy in that same way.
At the end of the day, you still have to identify a crime. You still have to file charges. You maybe convene a grand jury. And then you have to convince a jury of your peers. And we're talking about the same DOJ that successfully prosecuted Bob Menendez. They just secured a guilty verdict
in an
against
election
him.
year.
They're going after Texas Representative Cuellar. They successfully prosecuted Hunter Biden. So I'm sorry, I'm just not buying this.
Yeah, the whole allegation that the Justice Department's been weaponized under Biden is absolutely preposterous. They appointed a special counsel to investigate him. Robert Hur released an incredibly politically damaging report about the president. They bent over backwards to accommodate Trump. Merrick Garland, we have reporting that he dragged his feet for a fucking year with the classified documents case. Didn't the FBI and the National Archives play footsie with Trump behind the scenes, begging him to send the documents back because they didn't want to prosecute him? Cuellar, Menendez, Hunter Biden. Biden could have snapped his fingers and made that case go away. Usually U.S. attorneys resign when a new president enters office because they're political appointees of the previous administration. Biden specifically asked David Weiss, the Trump-appointed special counsel, to remain to investigate his son. Donald Trump would never fucking do that. That was actually an act of superhuman ethics on Joe Biden's part, thus proving his moral superiority over Donald Trump, objectively.
Cool. I'll answer the question too. Yeah. So I don't think it's a threat to democracy. I think it's a bad and corrupt thing to do, but I don't think it's a threat to democracy. Democracy will not cease to exist if you vote for Alvin Bragg, who explicitly campaigned on going to court with Donald Trump. And also, Hutch, it seemed that Sean said almost the exact same thing, and then you attacked him as if he said the inverse. Again, strawmanning him, which seems to be your primary tactic throughout the entire debate.
No, he accused Biden's DOJ of political persecution against Biden's political opponents. And
I've heard Sean say explicitly throughout this debate that Biden's not involved, several times. So I don't know where.
Wait. Biden's not involved in what? Wait. Biden's not involved in what?
Like prosecuting Trump.
He's not. Biden is not involved in prosecuting Trump.
Yeah, exactly, Destiny. That's the point we're making. I think Sean and I both have conceded that Biden's not involved, but it seems that Hutch keeps attacking Sean for the exact inverse of everything he says. He talks about Biden being involved, even though nobody said that Biden was involved.
Because
He used language talking about political persecution using the DOJ.
I actually specifically,
intentionally
I
prosecute somebody.
specifically
You don't-
clarified that there were state, even local officials. Then I went specifically to Alvin Bragg, who is a local official. I talked about them running on these. Like,
Right.
were you not familiar? I said they weren't
even
all
if they,
federal.
even if
I
they
heard that.
run
I
on that,
also want to point out that you're like, Garland dragged his feet. Yeah, it's true. The federal prosecutors all dragged their feet on this up until Trump was announcing he was running for election. And this is a criticism I've heard from people on the left and the right, that once it was clear that he was going to run, that's when they decided that they were going to prosecute. I mean, Cenk Uygur screams about how Merrick Garland should have went after him the entire time as soon as he came out of office.
So you are accusing the Biden DOJ of political prosecution, right?
Well, let me finish my point. So he says he should have went after him as soon as he got out of office. You had the special counsel bring charges on the classified documents case, but it would have been probably less political to go after him early when you weren't sure he was going to run rather than later. But it seems like they went after him and they put all these cases on the ballot. And again, most of it is not federal officials or the special counsel. It's local politicians that ran specifically on prosecuting Trump. And remember, normally you have to have evidence of a crime before you start an investigation, not as a campaign promise run on finding a crime to charge somebody with. But again, even then, like, people did vote for this. I find it to be disgusting. I don't think it is a threat to democracy. It shakes the faith in the judicial system, but I don't think it overthrows our democratic system, because that's just a heavy burden.
even
that
if
you guys have not met.
Touching on what Cam said, you are saying that the Biden DOJ under Merrick Garland is engaged in political prosecution, right?
I don't know if the special counsel directly answers to Merrick Garland. Like,
No, but you said that Merrick Garland specifically announced the charges when he knew that Trump was going to be the
I
candidate.
said that
would
Merrick
be a
Garland didn't charge Trump, and people have criticized him for dragging his feet until Trump
Could I get a
ran for
clarification
president.
if it was or wasn't political persecution, Sean?
I think there's definitely a political element to it. There's a reason all these cases popped off.
Okay,
For
thank you.
sure.
All right.
Dude,
But I
hold on.
never-
for Alvin
I never
Bragg,
said-
even
I
if,
never
he,
said
even
it
if Alvin
wasn't.
Bragg, even if he did run on the idea of prosecuting Trump, couldn't he have done it because he thought that Trump committed a crime? Like, this was a criminal case. He got a grand jury. We got a grand jury to agree to an indictment, and then it was tried in open criminal court, and a jury of peers convicted Donald Trump of the crime. So even if it started off as like, well, I hate him politically or whatever, he went through the entire criminal court process in order to secure that conviction at the end of the day. So he
He literally admitted that he didn't know.
Okay,
what he
hold
was
on.
gonna
I want to get the standard out.
No,
So
no,
hold on. I
no,
want to get the standard
no,
out.
no,
If
prosecutor.
Trump orders an investigation into his political opponents, and then they find a crime when they're digging into him in order to look specifically for a crime. They didn't have evidence before they started the investigation, but they go through the whole trial phase. Like, you know, they try whatever political opponent in a county that voted 80% for Donald
you have
Trump.
to have
They
evidence
want
to
the
get an
jury,
indictment.
and then
You need evidence for an indictment.
And then they convict him. Like, that's fine as long as you present some evidence when you're digging.
Violative of the
You need
norm.
evidence
That would
of
be
the
violative of the
indictment.
norm that the president doesn't direct the DOJ. That would violate
Yeah,
that norm.
district
It technically
attorneys
wouldn't be
prosecute.
unconstitutional.
Presidents don't prosecute. That's one of the major differences
First of all,
between those two
the
examples.
DOJ serves under the president. Like, this weird idea that departments under the executive branch are like somehow above the executive branch.
They're
is
not
crazy.
above. Wait a minute. They're not
no.
above. They're not above the executive branch. But the president, by way of norm, is not supposed to be involved with the day-to-day prosecutorial decisions. So, yes,
Long-standing norm.
the attorney general serves at the pleasure of the president. He is the president is his boss. But the thing is that they shouldn't be directing. You prosecute this person. You don't prosecute this person. It's like broad. Like, hey, we're going to reschedule marijuana. We're going to focus more on these sorts of cases than this. Not you're supposed to prosecute this person or not. No one is saying that the attorney general is totally independent of the president. They serve at the president's pleasure. The president's just not a prosecutor the way a district attorney is.
I never said the president was a prosecutor. I said he got his prosecutors to go after them.
Yeah, but
Wait. So the president did, So the president did get prosecutors in the DOJ to go after Trump?
No, I asked you a hypothetical that if this were the case, but they went through the normal legal process, you would be fine with that? That's the standard?
No, because in order to make it comparable, it would have to be like the governor of New York running on trying to.
A local DA that's very pro-Trump, 90% Trump category, finds an official, charges him with the crime that he campaigned on charging him with. They present evidence in front of a grand jury. It's enough for an indictment. Very low standard, by the way. And they secure a conviction. That's like totally legit.
The evidence of the crime was already in the public
if they think they've committed a crime. Hold on, especially as a New Yorker, you don't think people have ever run on cleaning up crime, on getting rid of like the mob or the mafia, or
There's a
run as a
difference
DA
between-
on doing things to
First of all,
get rid of
you're not answering the
Michael Cohen-
question, which is a
Michael
very direct
Cohen-
question.
hold on,
Would that
I can't
be
hear both at the
okay?
same time.
The direct
Wait,
answer
I
is
can't-
if a
it's not-
DA
I
if
can't hear
somebody-
bo- I can't hear both at the same time. Sean, you were saying something?
Yeah, so you're not answering the question, which is a very direct question, and now you're pivoting to a
No, okay,
DA,
I'll answer the question.
a
The
DA
question is-
running on being tough on crime and prosecuting criminals in general. Like
Not
that's
in general.
completely
It's not
different.
just general
That's
things. But people want to go
completely
after
different.
particular criminals. If you think a guy's committed a crime and a DA runs on that, he's like, I think that this guy's a criminal. When I'm the DA, I'm going to go after this guy. I'm going to make sure that I get
evidence-
That's not
the
what
evidence-
you're supposed to do.
The evidence of the crime was already out in the public space at that point. Michael Cohen had testified in front of Congress to these crimes. He had been criminally charged and convicted on these crimes. So
Michael
it's not
Cohen-
like there was some fishing expedition. There was already strong evidence of these crimes out there in the open that had been reported on and adjudicated for years.
Okay.
Michael Cohen was
Damn it.
prosecuted by federal authorities. Am I right or no?
No, but it was for the same. He was prosecuted federally, but the crimes were related.
All right, but can I also get my question answered? So it would be fine if like a
But can we
Trump
make this the
sycophant
last
district
question
attorney
so we
did
can
that?
get to some of these donations, guys? Because we are
If a
15
district
minutes
attorney
over
thought
already.
that somebody, yes, if a district attorney thought somebody had committed a crime and he runs on that, I'm going to hold them accountable for this crime that I think this person has committed. Yeah, and they go through the ordinary process and not breaking any rules or anything. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think everybody would agree
Running
with that.
okay, so running on I'm gonna find a crime to prosecute them. That's totally fine.
Did
If-
Alvin say that? I'm going to find a crime.
yeah, he said what was the exact quote? What you call it? Cam, you were talking about it earlier that he said he was running on seeing Trump in court.
Oh yeah. He like specifically said that he was the person that had the most experience on the ballot with dealing with Trump in court.
Okay, was it? What did he
And?
say? He was going to find a crime?
He didn't specify what crime he was going to prosecute him on when he was asked.
So he didn't say this then.
No
So you
answer,
completely
yeah.
made that up. So you completely fabricated that. To be clear, right? Hold on,
We're
Sean.
not.
You admit that you totally just made that the fuck up, right? That he was going to find a crime, right?
I didn't say he said as an exact quote he's gonna find a crime, but he ran on finding a crime to prosecute on.
How do you know he did
prosecute
that if he
Trump.
didn't say it exactly though? I thought we were going by exact quotes, a detailed
When did I say-
manifesto of
when did I
exactly
say
what somebody's
exact
going to
quote?
do.
You just inserted that in there and pretend, and you hope that your audience won't notice.
If there's already federal prosecution of people around Trump or Cohen for these exact types of behaviors, why wouldn't we assume that Alvin Bragg is running on the idea of going after Trump because he knows that Trump was in the state of New York when these crimes are being committed? Why couldn't we just assume that?
I'm looking for the quote that he for his campaign
You also
promise.
check the timeline. In all seriousness, I thought that Trump was already under some sort of preliminary investigation by Bragg's predecessor, wasn't he? That's the other thing too. I can't remember, but you may want to double check that too.
Okay, can we use this as a stopping point? And Sean, during the question period, if you find something, maybe we can retouch on it again. Okay, fantastic. Thank you guys for being here for this. We're gonna go through some questions because a lot of people have questions. We got a lot of people watching. Happy to see it. Let me read through these quickly, okay? To conservatives, historically, do most failed democracies fail due to soft erosion of guardrails over time or due to hard power takeovers? Does anybody want to
I
take
guess
that?
it would mean like a hard power takeover. Does that mean always
like a
external,
military coup,
like
something like
always,
that.
but always another country or internal? I would say hard power takeovers.
Okay. Continuing.
Preceded by soft erosion.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say chances are generally probably strong democracies don't generally just get cooed or fail. There's probably some erosion of norms or things that cause shit to be kind of wacky, and then eventually it makes it more susceptible to either external or internal pressure. But I mean, it would depend. If you're talking about like a full-on fucking invasion, like I mean, it doesn't matter if you got a strong or weak democracy. If the other country's bigger than you, they probably just blow your shit up, right?
Okay. If Hitler had failed to seize power, would it have still been fair to say democracy was on the ballot when he was running for election?
Didn't he win election? Wasn't it stuff he did afterwards that like allowed him to become the Führer?
I believe
Like,
he
I don't-
got
I'm-
like in third place, and then later
He lost.
he won.
I thought he
He
got a
was appointed-
plurality.
he
out,
lost-
I could be
no.
wrong.
Yeah, no, he lost.
No, he
to
lost.
Hindenburg.
He lost against the coalition government, and then they appointed him chancellor.
All right.
Well, yeah, but the question is like, assume a counterfactual where he was unsuccessful in his despotic ends. Would it still have been fair to say that he was a threat to democracy or democracy was on the ballot?
But he lost. Like, is that's what you guys just said?
Also,
But it's a hypothetical.
his
It's just a hypothetical.
his
We're not
appointment
talking about
was
literal.
I mean, his appointment was what like installed him into that position. So it wasn't on the ballot. It was honestly out of the hands of the
No,
citizens.
no, I understand. What the guy is asking for is an unsuccessful dictator still a threat to democracy? That's how I interpret the question. If the person is unsuccessful in their dictatorial ends, would it still be fair to say that they were a threat to democracy, or the democracy was on the ballot when they initially ran for election? I'd say yeah. I'd say obviously, but
I mean, look, it's Hitler. Like, obviously, he's a threat to like all sorts of norms. So it's kind of baked into the question.
Feel like you're right there. You're like right there, you know?
Also, can I just clarify? So the brag statements earlier were, quote, "We need a DEA on day one who has this 360-degree experience. Let's talk about what's waiting for the new DA." So there was already an investigation, subpoenas, and everything by the prior DA into Trump's business dealings relating to these cover-up. So
damn,
the investigation
that's
already been
definitely
going
full
on. Number one, okay, and then we know there's a Trump investigation. I've investigated Trump and his children and held them accountable for their misconduct with the Trump Foundation. I also sued the Trump administration more than 100 times for deferred action for childhood arrivals, the travel ban, separation of children from their families at the border. So I know that work. I know how to follow the facts and hold people in power accountable. And the second quote is, "I'm the candidate in the race who has the experience with Donald Trump. I was the chief deputy in the Attorney General's office. We sued the Trump administration over 100 times for the Muslim travel ban, for family separation at the border, for shenanigans with the census. So I know how to litigate with him. I also led the team that did the Trump Foundation case. So I'm ready to go wherever the facts take me and to inherit that case." And I think it'd be hard to argue with the fact that that'd be the most important, most high-profile case. And I've seen him up front. I've seen the lawlessness that he could do. So it seems like he said exactly the opposite of what you implied. Do you understand that those quotes seem like the exact opposite?
He ran on holding him, quote, accountable. I'm reading through his quotes right now. I might have the same page as you.
Okay,
Steven,
so if he
just
ran on
because
holding
there
him
was-
accountable, isn't that what a DA is literally supposed to do? Isn't that his job?
Steven, come on. Just because there was already an investigation and just because
was that
Trump
the
had a
same
history of corruption,
investigation?
I mean, that's basically the same as lock her up. You get that, right, Steven? Come on.
Was that the same investigation? And he's not the only one. Letitia James also campaigned on prosecuting
I'm
Trump.
talking about Letitia James.
Well, we are when it's convenient for them.
Wait, hold on. Do we agree that Bragg's statements here seem to be the exact opposite of what you implied, right?
The statements that you read just now were not like the bad ones that I'm referring to. I'm looking through his statements during the campaign. But
Letitia James ran on going after Trump for the massive fraud that Michael Cohen testified to in front of Congress. She wasn't just finding it out of nowhere. It was something that was established in the public square.
You guys got a third name? Bragg, James. Is there another one?
Okay.
Fanny,
Garland maybe did something bad?
Fani.
Okay, so we're gonna
It's
ask
Fanny, but I call her
a few
Fanny.
more questions if we're done with that back and forth. Wasn't there something you wanted to touch back on earlier, AJW? I kind of forget.
This was it. We just touched on
Oh,
it.
you
Yes.
just okay. Good.
I'm looking for the Bragg thing. So
Okay, we'll just give you more time. I'll ask some more questions. For the righties, if Trump loses and retires, will the right stay MAGA, revert back to the right pre-Trump, or something new? W. Dillon, this was spaced. Thank you.
Yeah, obviously, I personally am not going to support Trump after like his like legally allowed term, right? Obviously, I'm going to like support somebody else.
I mean, obviously, I am Canadian, which I did ask Connor why I was partaking in this despite being Canadian, and he said for the thrill, for the flares. So here I am, but I don't think, just obviously observing it all, and even in Canada, it seems that a more populist right is always going to be the choice at the moment and probably going forward, at least for the next while. I mean, the Conservatives in Canada tried to run a more moderate Conservative that supported gun control, vaccine mandates, this kind of stuff. And Trudeau wiped the floor with him, and now they've had to replace him with a more populist candidate for Canada, Pierre Poilievre. So even in Canada, and you look at the UK, Nigel Farage is now the opposition because the Conservatives were voted out for being too moderate. I don't think you're going to see a reversion to a more previous neocon right in the Republican Party. I don't think that the voters want that or the base want that anywhere in the Western world at the moment. Whether you like that or not,
could you foresee any meaningful changes between that future populist candidate and Trump? That's a genuine question. Like if they're also going to be a populist, would you see like a major departure in any respect from Trump?
I couldn't. I mean, Trump is a pretty unique personality. It would be hard to replicate a Trump personality in any future candidate. And I think any attempt to do so would seem a bit, fake and weird. So there is going to be that difference. I don't think you're going to probably have the TV star aspect in a future candidate. But, look at someone like JD Vance. I thought that was a pretty surprising pick. And he's definitely more of from the more esoteric, autistic right-wing spheres than we've ever properly seen in kind of mainstream politics. I think that you are going to have a very, very different candidates coming up, especially as millennials start to enter the race for leadership. But yeah, not going to be the same kind of TV star personality as Trump. I can't imagine that would be the case.
I think we're witnessing the collapse of the Republican Party. I think Trump is, if he loses, I think Trumpism is not going to go away. And I just don't think they can help themselves. And they seem to be getting more and more extreme the more they lose. And the more they lose, the more extreme they get. And it's just a vicious cycle. And it's just.
The question was, would you support Trump if he tries to stay past his second term? Was that the question?
Oh, I apologize.
Mega politics.
It was like if Trump takes a big fat L, like what's gonna happen to MAGA politics? Is it gonna die? What's gonna happen to the Republican Party, etc.?
I mean, in reality, what people like is winners in politics. Like the reason that Biden won the primary in 2020 is because of Obama nostalgia. The reason that Hillary Clinton won the primary in 2016 was because of Clinton nostalgia. So if Trump takes a second loss, like that's it. It's like pretty much over for him. Like those people still exist. They'll still want a candidate that speaks to those issues, but it's like it's pretty much over for him. Also, he's kind of like a really old guy. So it's over for him.
No, though. 2022 was pretty brutal for Republicans.
Yes, I do want to.
That's a midterm. We're talking about presidential elections. Like typically, people don't like the feel of a loser, and Trump kind of escapes some of that because he like says that he didn't lose, and enough people believe it. And also, like the Biden term was so bad that they feel like he could win again. But like if he loses again, then it's pretty much over for him, in my opinion. Like I don't see recovering from 2 presidential election losses.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm interested by the chat. They're all saying JD Vance is a horrible pick. How could you not realize he's a horrible pick? I don't think JD Vance was a good pick, personally. I think he probably should have gone with a woman, in my opinion, but a lot of right-wingers disagree with me there. That's my opinion, though.
Any woman?
Yeah, just because
any woman.
Any woman. No.
Somebody who could stand. Somebody who
but
could stand to be close to Trump all the time, so not his wife.
Jeez.
My point wasn't like you have to like this direction, people. My point is that is where it is going. People are kind of getting really sick of the lack of change in, like I said, all over the Western world, whether it be the UK, immigration policy, even with Trump. Destiny, you've made some pretty good critiques on Trump shooting down some immigration policy that could have been helpful for shutting down the border. Basically, they just want people that are actually going to do something. And is sometimes that a lot more rhetoric than it is actually action? Yeah, sometimes, but people are listening to rhetoric. They want someone that seems like they're going to push harder on immigration policy, getting progressivism out of schools, all these issues that are kind of in their day-to-day periphery, the inflation issues. And once again, this, whether you like the candidates or not, whether you hate the right wing, whatever, that's just the direction I think it's going to go, more and more populist.
Okay. We've got 2 more questions. The next one is, do you guys think that JD Vance saying that he would overturn the election results on national TV was a problem or is concerning? That was for the question.
Yeah, little bit.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
It had to do with JD Vance went on TV when he was going for the VP pick, and the question came up about like what Mike Pence, when he had the choice between like, is he going to like send it back to the States or not? And JD Vance said that he would. Is that concerning at all?
Yeah. If JD Vance said that, if that quote is legit, then yes, that's concerning. That's idiotic. And it's a good way to land yourself in federal prison because, and I honestly, if he did say that, he's pandering to Trump, which, I get that everybody panders to the nominee. I get that's a thing that happens, but yeah, it's a stupid move. Like you should not do that. It was a terrible plan.
Plus,
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of like the overall like trend we're seeing from prominent Republican politicians who won't commit to accepting the results of the election. They'll say things like, "I am fully confident that Donald J. Trump will be elected the 47th president of the United States, and I'm looking forward to that." Yeah, but no matter what the outcome is, I am confident that Donald J. Trump will be the 47th president. Multiple Republican senators, I think Lindsey Graham, Tim Scott, certainly J.D. Vance, among others. It's extremely dangerous. I think that a good test for Republicans should be, hey, before we answer that question, how would we feel if a prominent Democrat said something like that? Perhaps the vice president, currently Kamala Harris, who would be presiding over the certification of the next election. What if she said, "I am confident that Joseph Robinette Biden is going to be elected the 47th president of the United States," to every answer about, will you accept the results of the election? The last thing I'll say on that is, actually going all the way back to the Eastman memo, when they were scheming to try to justify Pence tossing out the ballots. I can't remember, and Stephen might remember, I think it was Pence's chief of staff or Pence's counsel was like, "Okay, so could Al Gore have done it in 2000? And Eastman's like, "No, of course not." "Okay, could Joe Biden have done it in 2016? "No, of course not." "Could Vice President Harris do it in 2024? "No, of course not." These people are unprincipled fucking losers who deserve nothing but your public contempt.
By the end, Greg Jacobs testified, I'm pretty sure, that when he was arguing with Eastman over how likely do you think this would be to survive in the Supreme Court, the first answer that Eastman said is, we'd probably lose 7-2. And then after talking for a little more, like, yeah, I'd probably lose 9-0. Like, that was an absurd theory.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Did you have something to say on this, Cam?
I was just gonna answer the question. Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Okay. I was gonna say, yeah, I agree with Sean. If he said this, then yeah, it's bad, of course, and not good. But I think something that we kind of miss when we're looking at like all these Trump loyalists being appointed to government is, I think, we miss the fact that a lot of the times they're doing these things, like Sean said, to pander to the nominee, right? Like, I think that when J.D. Vance said that, like, who knows if he would have actually done it? It seems like he was probably doing it to pander to Trump and get Trump's support and like continue to have Trump support him, whatever, and also like energize Trump's base and like make Trump's base support him right now, because he's having obviously troubles with that. But on top of that, like, these people all have their own interests at heart, right? Like, who's when it really comes down to the line, like, are they going to sacrifice their own election?
Can I ask that follow-up question, just personally? Do you think J.D. Vance there's ever be a
Wait. Can he follow? Can he do the end of that? Were you about to say, would they really risk their political life? There are multiple lawyers that are in the process of being disbarred right now. What kind of a question is that?
Yeah, it's not going to be the majority of Trump appointees. The majority of Trump's appointees abandoned him for their own personal interests. So yeah, like, I'm just not going to.
I don't understand how you
we support Trump and everything he says, but it's because of the TV people.
Cam, give me a second. I just want to get to the core of this and move on, because we do got to wrap this up because the people got to go. Do you think that there's any risk that J.D. Vance have given like the instructions to like do what, like send it back to the states, that he would do it to anybody?
I don't know. I think there's always like risk that like people are going to do certain things, right? We don't know for certain. Essentially,
Wait. There's always a risk that certain people are going to do certain things. Wait, what was that answer?
Yeah, of course there's risk. If he said he would do it, yeah, of course there's
is
risk.
this not a tacit?
What I'm saying is, like, I think a lot of times.
Wait, guys, don't let him answer. Okay, he's
Thanks. Yeah,
Okay.
it seems like every time I open my mouth, everybody else starts talking. It's crazy. So anyway, yeah, what I was trying to say was Destiny, come on, man.
That was Josiah, not me. Don't blame me.
Yes, Steven, fucker.
Okay.
Steven, stop it.
Okay, great. Okay, so anyway, what I was getting at was, it seems like a lot of these people like just pander to Trump so they can get support from his base and win elections, right? But like, when it comes down to like actually losing their jobs, it seems like the majority of them are not going to sacrifice their jobs to like help Trump in his like crazy like esoteric legal theories, like I said before. And you cite like all these people, you guys have been citing all these like crazy people that like continue to support Trump and all of his antics, and it seems to be like all the crazy TV people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. Like, of course, those people who are looking for popularity on television are going to pander to Trump's base.
Wait, we're talking about JD. Can I just say real quick, Is that not a tacit admission that the Trump administration would be a threat to democracy? It feels like you acknowledged that there would be a risk of JD Vance doing something similar to January 6th.
Yep.
He said the opposite. That he would choose his own personal political career over.
No.
Yeah, but if his personal political career relied on approval from Donald Trump, which Donald Trump makes clear to every single person he talks to, I hope these guys get elected. I said that on the call.
That's a phenomenal question. Can you point to me a major Republican whose political career depended on them actually challenging Trump? Because it seems to me that's a death sentence in the Republican Party more often than not.
Yeah, but Vance as the VP, like if he was the VP, and again, nobody explains how he would be in the position of Trump, but whatever, as the VP has the same issues that Mike Pence had, where there's nowhere to go when you're the VP except to the presidency, and you risk going to jail if you try this and the court tosses it out. So like it's not in his self-interest in that moment to do that. Remember, Mike Pence was one of the biggest hype men for Donald Trump up until he asked him to do something that would compromise not only his own career but his own freedom.
Well, but now you can get pardoned. What do you mean? Federal crimes? President can just pardon you.
Okay.
I mean, he theoretically, yeah, sure, he could pardon you, but again, like
But that
it's
just
not
defeated
gonna
your
work.
entire argument. Why would it not work?
It's not going to work though. Like the court
Why?
is going to invalidate it because even the lawyers that came up with
What?
this said it was a 7-2.
Wait.
Like-
The court's going to invalidate a pardon?
No, not the pardon, the actual act to keep
Oh,
Trump
sure.
in office.
Well, maybe the court will invalidate. You don't know. Who knows, right?
Yeah, we have a pretty good idea when they rejected all of Trump's election cases that they weren't interested in it. But
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
then they
who
granted
knows?
him. But then they
Maybe
granted him
that-
criminal immunity
maybe
that
that
the
was
president
so-
of the United States
when
has
he
never
was
had in the
being-
history of all
when
of the
he was
presidency.
being
So
prosecuted by opportunistic political actors and it got kicked up to the Supreme Court, they sought to have a standard for actions while the president was in office. Like you act like he just got granted immunity out of nowhere. It was
he
because
did.
of,
It came out of nowhere.
Certainly
Yeah.
was
because-
nowhere in the Constitution.
it was
Yes.
because of case after case where the court had to examine this specific claim.
Could we?
What
I want to
specific claim?
finish this quick.
Like
and I
that the
wanna jump
president
down
has
the
some
rabbit hole.
level of immunity.
Okay, he doesn't. The court invented that for him. But also, wait, did we find the Alvin Bragg's quote?
Oh, I
Or
know
do-
that
are we-
Alvin Bragg actually. So you had two attorneys that ended up leaving the case in 2021 to give you an idea of the political nature of this. And they both entered written statements saying that Bragg decided not to prosecute. And then all of a sudden, when Trump is saying that he's running for office, this case ends up coming back. So this, like I said, was dead and buried when people didn't know Trump was running for office.
Okay, wait. That's good. But can you admit that what you said is nowhere to be
ran-
found from what
Bragg
Bragg
ran-
did? Bragg didn't
Bragg
say
didn't
anything
say,
what you
"I'm
said, and what he said was the
directly
exact
gonna-"
opposite of what you implied, right?
Bragg didn't say I'm directly going to find the crime to prosecute Trump, but he ran on prosecuting Trump, which is
Hold on, no.
very atypical.
No. He said he ran on continuing the already started investigation, and he said he was going to follow the facts.
Many quotes about, yeah, of course, you give your
Can
little
you give me
caveat.
can you give me one single quote that shows what you were saying? You just spent all this time looking for it, right?
Well, I
one
was
single
looking at
quote
the
that shows that
timeline
you-
of the case, but
Okay, so to be clear, then what you're saying, you have no
And by
quotes
the
for
way,
this. And
Bragg
every
was
quote that
actually-
we've both seen so far is the exact opposite of what you said. The exact opposite. So
It's
we're
not the
relying on there being
exact
some.
opposite.
it
It's
is
not the exact opposite.
Hold on.
He's saying that
Him
he's going to
saying
go
that I'm
after
going to
him.
follow. No, wait. Where did he say? Where did he say that I'm going to go after him? Or did he say I'm
I-
going to follow the facts?
Oh my God, he's
my God.
paraphrasing. Come
Also,
on.
I just think it's hilarious that
No,
the
he's
addition
not.
of
No, wait, stop. Hold on. He's not paraphrasing. Paraphrasing
He said that
implies that you are accurately summarizing the underlying material. He's not
you're
paraphrasing.
right.
He's
Destiny,
misquoting.
if I'm gonna- if I'm
he's
gonna- if I'm
misquoting.
When you're right.
We're gonna let, let's
if
let,
I'm-
wait,
I
wait,
said
one
that
second,
he
one second.
campaigned.
Wait. We're gonna let Destiny finish his point, and then we're gonna have
Okay, go ahead.
Sean respond because this is the back and forth. We don't need the. I don't think the side commentary here is that important. Go on.
I'm
Wait,
just
Dylan,
curious.
after
What is
they're
a single
done-
Alvin Bragg's point? Yeah.
Yeah.
After they're done, can I be permitted to leave?
Yeah. We have
I've
one
had
more.
enough.
We have one more rabbit hole question, and then we're done. Okay. I promise. Promise you. Okay.
I got a final goodbye message.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah.
Okay. 1 second. Accidentally turned those. Okay.
Is it
So,
Steven or
back-
me?
Yeah. No. Steven ask the question. Sean respond, and then we have one more rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
my
we're
final
done.
point was that it seems like every single quote from Braggs showed that he was going to follow the facts, he was going to be careful and follow the law, and he was continuing the investigation that had already begun, which is a stark contrast to Sean accusing him of saying he's going on a fishing expedition and he was going to prosecute him no matter what. So I'm looking for a single quote around his campaign he's running that demonstrates that he was planning on doing that, or at least made that intention public.
Again, the entire campaign for Manhattan District Attorney was about this. Go watch the Democratic debates for the Manhattan District Attorney, who are going to win. On top of that, he specifically was referring to, in a lot of the quotes that Steven cited, the campaign finance prosecution, which he did not actually didn't prosecute him for. And also, according to CBS News, Alvin Bragg dropped this case in 2021 and then re-picked it up, according to the special assistant district attorneys that he had on board. So, like, yes, there was a political motivation for this. Now, as far as the specific quote that Destiny is asking for, it does not exist. He gave caveats. He's smarter than He's smarter than I gave him credit for in my paraphrase. So if you want to take that, that's fine.
Okay, so just to be clear, everything you just said was, you keep saying there's a political motivation. You have zero evidence of that. You said go watch all of the
Literally
debates
in
and all
the
of the
campaign, but okay.
Okay, where? Show me. Literally, where?
Like in the campaign, he's talking about prosecuting Trump.
In the campaign, what? In the what? StarCraft 2 campaign, and the campaign for
His
what?
campaign for Manhattan District Attorney. That would be the office that he holds, Stephen.
Okay,
And
so
you
was it
read
in a
some of his
speech?
quotes
Was it
where,
on
yeah,
social
he said-
media? Is it published
You
anywhere,
read
like
some
on
of
a
his
major
quotes where he's
media
like,
publication?
he gives the caveat at the end of it. That's like true. He did give his caveats. If you want to say that's fine, then that's fine.
I mean, they're fine for Trump. When Trump says go peacefully and patriotically one
Okay.
time in a fucking speech, that
We've
changes the
reached-
tenor of
we've
everything.
reached the
The Bragg's,
StarCraft
the
references.
Bragg's
Right,
caveats
no,
don't
we've
count for
reached-
shit.
We've
Kind of
reached
funny.
the StarCraft references. I think that's enough. My last rabbit hole question. Then we're gonna do closing so everybody can go. Do you guys think that with JD Vance's, like, he's only been the senator for like 2 years? What background can we go off of to like educate ourselves on whether he would make that decision to, you know, go and send it back to the states, or he would say, no, Trump, I stand with the Constitution, or whatever you guys would think he would say? Because he doesn't have like an extensive history in politics.
Who was that to?
I mean, that was, I mean, I guess the conservatives.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm being honest.
True.
It's almost like a rephrase of the same question that we just answered.
It's almost like
Yeah.
conservatives have no fucking platform, have no engagement with the political system whatsoever, and the defense of Donald Trump is actually a fucking joke, and every single thing around him is actually a fucking giant meme. Which is fine.
No.
We all meme it up sometimes. That's
Okay.
good.
Okay.
I'm here
You
for
don't
it.
need to answer.
I
You can just
almost-
wrap it up.
Yes, thank you. I had a brief moment of wisdom where I told Connor I couldn't join this because I said I didn't have enough time to do research before it because I've had a hectic month. I've told a few of you guys about it, but it's just been ridiculous. Believe it or not, Destiny audience, Pisco and I have been going over the indictments for hours. We've spent good time on it, but I definitely need more time to go through it. I do not think that they are simply cut and dry. Trump is going to end democracy and was about to. I don't think it's that simple so far, but I have a lot more reading to do. Lauren should have left 5 minutes when she came in. I should have. I absolutely should have. But I will also have you know, Connor told me that someone on the Hippy Dippy stream was crying, screaming, and throwing up if I didn't show up. So I left here. I showed up at my studio to join and contributed absolutely nothing. So I apologize to AJW and everyone else for that. But next time, when I'm done this with Pisco, I will have an excellent conversation. So thanks for having me.
Happy to have you. You have a great one. Okay, we'll
Cheers.
go
You
to
made-
everybody else
you-
for closings.
You made Monolith very happy. He was crying and screaming in the
Was
chat.
he the one crying and screaming
Yeah.
in the chat? All right. Bye.
Okay, let's stop milking and let's wrap it up. Let's start with AJW.
What are we doing now?
We're wrapping up. Outros and
Closing statement.
closings.
All right. So, I mean, we got a little off track, but it was fun. It's not about like what you achieve. It's about the friends you make along the way. Now, during the course of this debate, which was pitched to us as Trump is going to end democracy, throughout the course of it, these guys presented no plausible scenario in which that could happen. Instead, they threw out this random thing or that random thing, talked about how he could erode some norms and all that, which honestly is like what you could argue about any candidate, and it's like really more opinion based. And I was hoping for a plot that could circumvent the 22nd Amendment from any of these people, but unfortunately I did not get that. And that's honestly quite sad. I mean, I am quite upset about that. Now, as for the evil orange man being not the best guy, I think we can all understand that he's not our favorite person in the whole world unless he absolutely is. And, you know, like he definitely has some sketchy tendencies, if I'm being perfectly honest. I mean, look at the color of his skin. But I think what we can all say as we came together is that through the course of this conversation, we became more than just a debate panel. We became a family. And if you guys can't realize that I'm ready to go to the bathroom, then I don't know what to tell you, but it was nice. I hope you guys are very well in your lives. It's nice meeting all of you. You're all good friends, and I'm out of here.
Damn, he deleted himself basically. Damn. Okay, sending you over to Destiny then.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the conservative defense for Trump is a meme because Trump is a meme and because his whole platform is a meme. And I think that it is literally impossible. I think it's kind of been demonstrated over the past 2 weeks. It's impossible to seriously engage with any conservatives when it comes to defending Donald Trump's behavior. They instantly become basically like LSD, schizo-ridden, delusional, insane people who have to like pull to the ends of the earth. I think I would say that the highlight of the debate for me tonight was watching the conservative side seriously consider whether or not the Civil War was a threat to American democracy. I think that was the highlight of this debate to me, and I think it illustrates how far you have to go to justify any defensible position of Donald Trump and the way that he conducts his behavior while he's in office.
Okay, we're gonna send it over to Hutch.
Yeah, I thought I this is something I run into a lot. I engage with conservatives a lot on social media, and the cope that I see over and over again, and we saw it on full display tonight, was, we had our two co-panelists acknowledge that Donald Trump tried to subvert the will of millions of voters and simultaneously say that that's not a threat to democracy. They both acknowledged that J.D. Vance saying that he would commit to actually sending those electors back if he was in that same spot. They don't seem to acknowledge that that is a threat to democracy. I don't know what to do with that. You can find me on Twitter at Hutchinson, on Twitch at Hutch. Dylan, thanks for having me, and it was nice to meet my fellow panelists for the first time here.
Awesome. And we're now going to send it over to Cam Higby.
Hey, yeah, so firstly, thank you, Dylan, for having me on, and thanks, Danabo, for reaching out. Furthermore, I'd like to pretty much say the same thing Sean said, in that I think that at least to us, the way that it seemed was, and that's, I think, nobody's fault other than the interpretation that both sides had, that basically democracy being on the ballot meant that democracy is going to cease to exist if Donald Trump wins the election. I don't think that that's true. Obviously, and I posited like several times that we could just move on from that topic and, maybe look at a more nuanced version of this discussion that talked about like threats to democracy as opposed to democracy ceasing to exist if we got concessions from people, but we never got concessions from people, so we continued to go in circles the entire time. Furthermore, I'd like to say that Destiny says the conservative side seriously considered if civil war was a threat to democracy. I don't think anybody did that on here. I told you as soon as you said it that it was a non-analogous example or analogy. It wasn't a good metaphor for the situation, obviously, because there was a military coup as opposed to like, somebody trying to like use or manipulate laws to keep themselves in power. Obviously, it's fundamentally different. So, yeah.
Okay, and now we're going to send it over to Pondering to wrap us up.
Yeah, so appreciate this last second edition. It's great interacting with AJW, Lauren.
Wait, one second. I do want to
Cam.
throw a really big shout out to Cam for coming last second with very little time to prepare. I really do appreciate it.
Basically,
Yeah.
none. Yes.
Pondering.
Yeah,
I
seems like a
thought
chill
it was
guy. It was nice meeting you guys. I learned a lot from this conversation. Number one, that threats to democracy are when military, nothing is ever on the ballot. Democracies never end. They're just temporarily inconvenienced. It could be for 10 years. It could be for centuries. The Roman Republic never ceased to exist because Italy still exists. I don't understand the thought process. There is no good faith defense of Donald Trump. He is an authoritarian narcissist, a pathological liar, a betrayal of genuine conservative principles. And this idea that simply because he failed in his first attempt to thwart democracy, therefore he will fail in his second attempt is categorically ridiculous. You would never apply that logic anywhere in any other aspect of life. If you have a girlfriend or a spouse, and again, they drive their car into a guardrail on a highway and they don't careen over the cliff, you would never say, hey, go fucking try it again. You were never in danger. Categorically ridiculous. Make sure you vote for the Democrats in every fucking election until the MAGA Republican wing of politics dies.
Until you're dead.
Politically.
And that is that. Thank you to everybody for coming out and spending so much time with the show. I think it was a good relaunch. I think it went well. Well with a lot of bumps, but the bumps just became, good theater, I guess.
Good job, Dylan. We appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you so much. You guys have a good one. I'm going to be very busy this weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Be careful.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Yep.